Hey everyone, welcome to GameFace episode 129 on Sifted Games at sifted.net. Got some comments this week, Matt. People were not happy about being able to see our legs.
Oh, welcome to the club.
Yeah, we posted the first episode from here on YouTube, and a couple people were like, if you're not a girl, don't show your legs.
Well, it's not like we're wearing skirts and like Basic Instinct flashing.
That's E3.
All right.
We're coming in with like mini skirts for E3.
Man, weird.
Yeah, I don't know. People are weird on YouTube, Matt. I don't know if you figured that out yet.
I've noticed. But...
I want to say we have a great episode tonight. Matt and I have played a ton of games this week. We're going to talk about all of them. A couple big topics to get to as well. I think it's going to be an awesome show. For those of you who maybe haven't been on the stream for a while, always remember to subscribe via Twitch Prime. That button just at the top of the player is a huge, huge help for us. For those of you who have done it already this month, I appreciate it. It is getting towards the end of the month, and that's generally when we start to really remind you guys. We'll pop it up on the site as well as a friendly reminder for people who have been subscribing to us every month. We appreciate it very, very much. We have a huge show. We've been a little under the last couple weeks. We've been about 2 hours the last couple weeks. I have a feeling we might stretch back to 3. So kick those feet up. We got a lot of games to talk about, and let's get right to it. We're going to start things off with State of Decay 2. My game eval for that went up yesterday. Wanted to get that out there before it actually will release in, a couple hours on the East Coast. Actually, can you get stuff at 9 p.m. on the West Coast?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's when it went live on Friday if you had the Ultimate Edition at 9 p.m.
Or if you have Xbox Game Pass, you've been able to play it for a while now.
So, there's multiple, but hopefully people didn't get the Ultimate one.
Yeah, I think that would be a huge mistake.
$30 versus $50 is a big difference, and in this case, I think you're getting what you choose to pay for in some ways.
So as this show winds down, you'll be able to go and buy it digitally. I doubt they're doing midnight sales for State of Decay 2.
Probably not. Probably not.
So if you want it tonight, you're probably going to have to go to PSN or Xbox Live or Windows.
Not PSN.
All right, yeah, or Xbox Live or Windows Store.
Yeah, it is cross-buy. So.
Yeah, so if you buy it for one, you better play it on PC.
Or Windows Anywhere, I guess is what that is.
Yeah. Play Anywhere, I guess is what it's called.
I haven't actually played it on PC.
I haven't either. Actually, someone asked me in the comments for the game eval, what's it like to play it on PC? I have not played it on PC, but what I replied to him was, the game is very simple to play. I cannot imagine them screwing it up on PC, but...
Yeah, I'm sure the controls or whatever are fine. It's just, it's got other problems.
Yeah, I think the controls are the least of your concerns regarding this game. So, Matt, you've been playing it as well. I finished it late Saturday night. I actually played with a sifter on Saturday to get some co-op in for a couple hours, and then plowed through it. Matt, what are your impressions of State of Decay 2? Obviously, mine are kind of out there already.
Yeah, I like it a lot when it works, but I have stopped playing at this point. I think I probably played like 15, 16 hours, but I pretty much stopped playing because I've been hitting so many bugs that are causing me to have to restart the game, and then I lose the mission I was on, or the mission doesn't come back, or it puts me somewhere else that I can't get to my vehicle, or it's riddled with bugs.
This is the buggiest, most broken game I have. Retail-wise, it's in the top 10 as far as games that I played that are broken that were released.
I mean, it reminds me...
I played preview code that's been worse.
It reminds me of the first game a little bit in that regard. I mean, the first game did not launch in the most wonderful of states.
I barely scratched the surface of the first game. I had very little experience with it.
I actually just replayed through the first game in the past couple weeks because I was like, well, I thought, because after we talked about how similar this looked, I was like, I should probably play the first game again to refresh myself so I can really know what's new and what's different. And I would say that I don't think there's anything in this game, in State of Decay 2, that is not better than State of Decay 1.
That's good.
It feels like it controls better. The way the stamina and the life work is better. It looks marginally better. The world is bigger. There's everything works a little better in terms of kind of the design of the game systems. The issue is entirely it's not finished. It's not it doesn't feel like it's a finished game. At the very beginning of the game, you go through sort of an intro area, and then you pick one of 3 three maps to kind of like establish as your base where you go. And I picked the valley. And
I picked the plateau.
They direct you to go to to the first house that's going to be your main base. And I went there, and you have to clear out the house. And,
of zombies, yeah.
The last zombie was inside the geometry of the stairwell.
Yeah.
Just sort of, you could hear him. He was moaning, and the real red dot on the mini map was right there, but I couldn't get to him. And so I just sort of stared there for a while and I was kind of swinging my weapon at the thing, see if I could get him, like wait till his
maybe
arm,
clip through the wall and hit him.
Like wait till his arm popped out of the thing and shoot him. Yeah. Eventually, my NPC companion teleported inside the wall and beat him to death. And so then we got our first base without having to restart the game. But that's the kind of, I mean, I have had stuff where something has happened with the physics, and like a character has just flown a football field away at random times. Once, after a really harrowing series of out in the field events, I was driving back, and about maybe 2 blocks away from my base, the world vanished. Like the only thing that was left were the vehicles, the characters, and the houses, and they were all sort of floating on sort of like smeared texture, invisible nothing. And I had to kind of drive over invisible things to get back to the parking space at my base and stash the stuff so I could kind of get a save done.
Right.
And then I had to I quit and loaded the game back up, and it was still like that. And then, so I had to completely quit the game and restart it. Actually, I might have had to restart the Xbox for that one.
Oh, really?
And then more recently, I've run into I had a pickup truck that had a giant like bulldozer like front on it, so I can just mow down zombies.
That's pretty sweet.
My favorite vehicle. It can kill a few hundred zombies before it even starts to show damage, basically. And I'd cleared out an infestation, which with that car, by the way, what I do is I just park outside the infestation and honk the horn and just ram them as they come out from the door.
Smart tactic.
But I was turning around to leave, and the side of the car like clipped part of the building, or like part of it was like an overhang of something, and it like bounced between that and the ground like 4,000 times in 1 second and blew up. The whole car blew up and flipped over. Now, for some reason, all the stuff I'd stashed in the back of the pickup bed was still there.
Yeah,
So I took all that, and I ran off, and I found another truck, and I drove the truck back, and I rammed the wreck of the truck, my truck, so it flipped back over right side up, and I used a repair kit and fixed it, and I got the car back. It was fine. So, like, on one hand, it was a fun emergent moment. On the other hand, it wasn't my fault.
Yeah.
So, like, there's a lot of stuff happening in this game where, like, and I stopped playing. The thing I stopped playing on was I moved my base to a campground. And for some reason, sometimes when I park in the parking space there and I go to leave, the camera will just will turn stationary. And, like, I'll just drive off screen. And then if I get out of the car, the camera goes back to normal. And if I get back in the car, the camera's frozen again. And the only way to fix that is to quit the game and start it up again. And because it auto-saves constantly, like, and it doesn't, like, if you switch off of a character or quit the game while you're doing a mission, it kills the mission. It abandons the mission.
And sometimes it'll even rewind way back to where
sometimes
when you load it back up, you have to wait like 45 minutes before that mission becomes available.
And sometimes
again.
it just goes away forever.
Yeah.
And so at a certain point, I'm like, okay, look, like, I can't keep doing this and losing progress and losing mission stuff and losing, I mean, you're also losing, like, I'm like many, many hours in.
Yeah.
Your base is a delicate balance.
It is, yeah.
And, like, look, if you're going to autosave so aggressively, like, because there's been, like, glitches that killed NPCs during quests, and so I failed the quest because the guy I was supposed to help died. There was another quest where I was supposed to help this girl get these meds back for her boyfriend, and we go negotiate with the guys who stole them, and I successfully negotiated with them. So they're like, okay, here you go, give me the rucksack of meds back, and I pick the rucksack of meds up, and they go, he's taking our shit, get him! And like
right here's a glitch, by the way. Here you see.
Yeah, and they just open fire on me and kill the girl I'm trying to help. So, and there's nothing you can do, so I killed them all. I took the rucksack back to her boyfriend and said, oh yeah, by the way, she died. And
this glitch was just me climbing up a ladder.
Yeah,
and then my character just got stuck in the wall, And you can see right there is an option to unstick your character.
Yeah, there's an actual, like, where you use the radio to call in support or to unstick your character from the environment.
Have you ever seen that before? A game that let you,
only
in its final code, reset your... I've seen debug code in
only in
preview code.
MMOs. I've seen it in MMOs, where like you type /stuck and it'll like reset you like 4 feet away or something. That's a pretty common thing in MMOs. I've never seen it in a single player open world game. That's a new one on me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to keep pounding on it. I've had tons
but what
of
I'm
bugs
saying
too.
is, like, when it works, I actually really enjoy it. Like, I like the first one a lot, and I really like kind of the survival angle, balanced with the base building, balanced with the combat, and kind of keeping the infestations. It's a little aggressive, and everyone gets very upset when there's infestations. Like, yeah, it's a zombie apocalypse. Deal with it. You know, like certain points you want to just tell your survivor group to be like, toughen up a little bit.
Buck up, buttercup.
But it's cool, like the options of what you can build, and like eventually you can kind of get the base sort of in this sort of self-sustaining sort of equilibrium, and that frees you up to go around and do more stuff and scavenge more things and talk to other groups. And now there's hostile survivor groups, which there was not. And you could make them unhappy enough that they'd leave town, but they would never attack you. And now you can have a house that, like, if you drive by, they just start shooting at you.
No, they're the toughest part of the game. Actually, none of the creatures I thought were all that dangerous. It's the other humans, because they will use healing items. They use guns, which none of the creatures in the game do. It was actually my experience with this game was actually the opposite. When I first started playing, first of all, full disclosure, I'm not a huge survival game fan. I think everyone who watches GameFace knows that at this point. I'm not a huge fan of the genre. When it first started, it was very manic, and it was hard to keep up, and it was hard to keep my cohort satisfied. Once I got over the hump and I had established some outposts around the terrain, and I wasn't just like constantly having to run and get medic because like someone's dying or half of my posse is starving and I'm like trying to, my best to find one rucksack of food or whatever. Once I got over the hump of that, that's where the game really turned sour for me. That's where the game became boring. It became tedious. It became repetitive. Because once you get your base to a place where it's satiating your crew, then you actually just have to play the game. And the lack of interesting mission objectives in the game, the lack of any sort of story, the lack of any sort of variety, it very quickly wore thin for me. And again, I know those are kind of the tropes of the survival genre. I know that that's what a lot of people like about survival games. For me, it ran out of gas really quickly. And then I felt, I did not play the first one more than like a couple hours, so I don't have a lot of experience with it. I felt the game did a terrible job teaching you what to do, how to do it. Like until I texted you, I had no idea where to deliver the rucksacks. Like and you're seeing it right now, delivering a rucksack. I thought.
See, I think the orange icon with the rucksack that with the arrow is enough.
Yeah, but see, I didn't even notice it. I just ran straight to the inventory. I'm like, oh, obviously I need to put all the stuff in this sack in the inventory so the people at my base can use it.
That is a change. I mean, in the first game, all you had to do was approach the inventory stash, and it would automatically take your rucksack and put it in. Same with the cars. Like if you had stuff in the trunk of a car and you went into a parking space, everything, all the sacks in the back of the car were automatically transferred to you. Now you have to actually park, look in the trunk, and hit the right trigger button and part of that I think is because you can carry rucksacks around and give them to other survivors, so you probably don't want to automatically just deposit everything.
I can understand why they did that. I don't understand why they have the two separate inventories though, because basically my first 3 or 4 rucksacks I put in the normal inventory. You go to try to put it in, and all it would let you do is break it down. So if you break it down, it would break up into like 5 medical bandages. And
see, I think
I'm like, why can't my teammates just go into the inventory? Because you get these messages, oh, we're hungry, or I need medicine. You're like, bro, there's like 8,000 things in the inventory. Just go get it. And
the supplies are separate from the object inventory. Yeah.
But why?
Because that's the difference between like what it's supposed to be, like kind of general survival equipment that you can use in the field and stuff that you use to maintain your base. It's just a separation.
It doesn't make sense to me why they do it, which is probably why it took me a while to figure out that I needed to put the rucksacks in one and then put the other supplies in the other one.
I'm surprised they let you move past it, because like once you get to the base, and I don't know if it's the same no matter who you pick, but the character I was playing like was fine, but the other character, because you have to pick between a set of pairs of characters. So there's like a brother and sister, and there's a lesbian couple, and there's two best friends, and there's like a boyfriend girlfriend that were broken up when the zombie apocalypse
That's what
broke
I chose.
out.
Yeah.
And one of them is kind of your main character that they have you play through the very beginning tutorial stuff, and the other gets blood plague. And you have like the first set of missions, at least on mine, where you had to find the cure stuff and craft the cure and stuff. And part of those missions during that were trying to teach you how to use the rucksacks and inventory and stuff.
Went right over my head. And then the inventory lets you break them down. So I was like, okay, well, I'm doing the right thing. It's letting me put this stuff in my inventory.
At that.
Yeah, this is.
I've had that glitch where the passenger is like flickering in and out of the vehicle.
By the way, this is me playing cooperatively with Sifter Suicide King. He jumped in and played with me for a couple hours, which was awesome and fun. And the game's a lot easier when you play co-op as well.
Also, I got real tired of all the vehicles getting about 3 gallons to the mile.
Yeah.
Like, cars don't do that.
Real fast.
Like, I know that vans and trucks are not the most fuel efficient, but like, these places are like 4 miles across maximum.
Well, in fact, at one point, he and I were playing together, and we had loaded up the truck with like 6 rucksacks or whatever. We were taking it back. I ran out of gas about 200 yards from the base, and I had to keep running back and forth that 200 yards to deliver the rucksacks to the base. Other stuff that wasn't intuitive, like I didn't notice that you could hit the right trigger and like just put all the rucksacks in at once. Even when I was parking in the parking space, I was running each one up individually. There's just tons of little quirks about the game that I felt like it did not do a good job of explaining them to you. Thank God I had you who had played the first one, because you helped me a ton. I'd be like, what's going on here? And you would text me back.
The interesting thing is they changed almost how you do almost everything in this one, even though what you're doing is more or less the same.
Yeah.
So like, it took even like something as simple as like attacking an enemy on the ground with like a finisher.
Yeah.
Completely different in this. In the first game, it was hold left bumper and hit Y, and in this one, it's hold right trigger and hit X.
Yeah.
So I had to kind of retrain my hands a little bit. But in the end, I think most of what they decided to do in this works better. For the most part, if I like killing zombies, it's satisfying to me. I think the guns are more useful in this. The targeting in the first game is really sketchy.
I hardly even use the guns.
I don't use them much because they're loud and they draw attention, and you don't want to do that.
And you don't get a ton of ammo either.
But when I've had to use them, I can craft ammo now with a bunch of mods I found. The base building has really been expanded in this, where you can modify each kind of location in your base and sort of make it a specialized thing that can do various things, which I like. And so I can kind of craft my own ammo because I need I need rifle ammo more than anything else, because I have like characters that are based on, they're based around doing various things. So like I have one of my characters has maxed out marathon skill, so she can sprint without using any stamina.
Right.
So she's my kind of runner, my standard runner. I have the soldier woman is she's my heavy arm. So she's got the sniper rifle, and she's got like carries explosives. She's my plague heart killer,
which we were just attacking right there. That is really the object of the campaign. Is you have 10 plague hearts that you have to destroy. As you destroy each one, the next one becomes more difficult. There's more zombies to protect that you have to take. It takes more hits before it's destroyed.
Yeah, early on they were pretty hard. Eventually I learned to just like draft a survivor to come with me, and they will sort of take the hits from the blood zombies, and while I whack the thing with a stick. Because they tell you like use explosives, none of it does anything.
Well, first of all, aiming explosives or throwing grenades in this game is impossible.
Yeah, there's no...
Impossible. There's no reticle that shows you, or an arc like to show you where it's going to
land. You just kind of got to hope that it hits where you...
Yeah, I did the first couple plague hearts. I tried that, and I was throwing my grenades all the way through it.
Yeah, you're wasting them mostly.
And I was just like, screw this. I'm just going to beat it with a bat.
The best plague heart strategy I've found is to hit them with a couple Molotov cocktails, which actually does damage them very strongly, and just use a shotgun or use a crowbar and just whack them until they die.
I just whack them until they were dead.
Yeah, and I mean it's a valid strategy, and like your companion will usually sort of play decoy, and then they'll get blood plague infection, and then you use a craft of cure and stab it into their neck, and you're done. So early on it was a problem, but later on it just kind of became okay. Take your last breath, fellas. Kind of.
Yeah.
It was just like, and I generally use my strategy of like taking the war rig and parking outside the house and honking until everybody comes out. And you just go. I mean, they summon more. The plague heart summons more, so it's not like you have an empty house just to wail away. But like, It's a very valid strategy if you can get, because you can upgrade the cars into full-on Mad Max stuff, like war wagons
Well,
and
it's
stuff.
also a good way to build your influence points because they're pretty stingy with the influence points. Like,
You can make them pretty fast if you keep doing like side missions, but like you're kind of at the mercy of the game to pop those side missions up.
the influence points govern the whole game. They're the gate for the whole game. It's what
it's your currency for upgrading and doing stuff.
and for securing new outposts. Because to me, what the key to getting over the hump with this game was securing the outposts.
Yeah, outposts are key.
Because you can secure outposts, and not each, but most outposts will help drip resources into your base.
Yeah, you don't want to establish an outpost anywhere that doesn't give you some kind of resource bonus. So
don't waste your points on a house that's not going to give you one of the things that your base
You can get
needs.
extra beds, or you can get provide food or ammo or construction stuff. I had one that did beds, and I had one that gave construction material, and one that gave ammo, and then the fourth one, which is really the thing that made the game easier, was a power station, which took 2,000 influence, which took
That's a lot.
It took me about an hour to get that.
Yeah.
So by that point in the game, like I was racking the influence up pretty quick, especially because driving the war van around.
You're just rolling up the kills.
Well, yeah, because like every few zombies you kill, you get 5 influence, and so if you're just mowing through hordes, you're getting 5, 15, 10 all the time. You're doing various things. You get influence by selling valuables to other survivors. Like you can get there's like luxury items you can just sell for tons of influence. It is, as Ken Levine said when he started to play it and posted on Facebook, systems.
Yeah, that's really what it is.
It's just a lot of systems to play with. The problem is that
there's nothing else.
No, I don't need. See, that's the thing is I don't need anything else, but I need those systems to work. And you see the seams and things fall through the cracks constantly because of the unfinished nature. I can only describe it as unfinished nature of the game. And I just wonder, if you're Microsoft, why is there any real pressure to get this game out in May? Why not wait? Why not delay it? I mean, maybe they just gave up.
It's been delayed twice.
I mean, it's
already.
been 4 years.
Yeah.
So maybe this is okay, this is good. But it's weird that
That's why I have very little faith that patches are going to fix much, because they've been working on it for so long already, and it's still so broken.
I don't believe that at all, because the first game launched with a bunch of terrible bugs in it too, and they fixed that up.
How long though did it take?
It took 8-9 months.
Yeah.
So but I mean, I'm not going to say it's tomorrow or anything, but I'm saying I'm sure they're going to fix it. It's just right now I can't tell anybody to buy this unless they just have the highest patience level for bugs and weird stuff. And by no means by the Ultimate Edition. I mean, $30, it wouldn't piss me off if I paid that for this. But
if you like survival games, I think for $30, you're probably going to be pretty happy with your purchase.
Well, especially if you like the first one, you'll love this one. I mean, but the problem is I can't guarantee your experience will be smooth sailing in terms of just the technical problems.
I can guarantee it's not going to be.
Yeah, probably not.
It's definitely not going to be.
And it's just weird that like one of the problems in the first game, and I even ran into it when I played it recently in the year one edition, which is a more or less cleaned up remaster of it. I was running into the thing where zombies would be in geometry or buried under rocks or something, and I couldn't kill them, so I couldn't finish the mission. And that happens in this game too, and it's just inexplicable to me because the first game was their own proprietary engine. I think this game's Unreal 4. How are you getting the same problems in a totally different game and a totally different engine, presumably with the support of Microsoft and Epic? What is going on?
I don't know how it looks so bad. I don't know how it runs so bad. There's crazy, we had crazy lag playing co-op.
Oh, the frame rate drops if you look at it.
At least I did. I don't know if...
and I'm playing on the X, and it runs pretty smoothly in most, but like right there, you saw it really when particle effects pop up like that, or if you're driving too fast and decide to make a turn, it'll just frame rate you into oblivion.
Yeah, and I've had tons of bugs separate from the ones you've mentioned. I tapped a guardrail one time and my car just exploded. Mm-hmm. I was driving down the road and literally just a switch flipped and I was at the menu screen. There was no it's crashing, nothing awkward. Literally, it just cut and I was at the menu screen. Just tons and tons of weird bugs and anomalies. But I will say, and I'm not a big fan of survival games, I did have some fun with this game. There were moments. But I think what shocked me the most about the game wasn't the bugs, because I'd heard about the first game, how rough it was when it was released. What shocked me the most, though, was that there is no story in this game at all. There's none. There's no exposition. There's no through thread. It's just, hey, the crap's hit the fan, survive. And that's it. There's no... narrative to pull you forward whatsoever.
Well, I think that's great because I didn't like the story in the first game. I thought it got in the way.
So there was more of that in the first one?
Oh yeah, there was an overarching story with Lily, the woman who's on your at the computer and you're trying to figure out what the military is doing, and it's loose. It's not like it's not God of War or anything, but like there is a overarching narrative that in the end propels you out of the town. And there's main characters more or less and stuff like that. Most of that's gone in this game, and I prefer that because one of the DLC.
So it's so bad in the first one.
Yeah, well, also you don't have Lily on the radio constantly saying, "Hey, you're never going to look at the survivors I told you about." No, I'm not, because I've got 40 things to do, and I don't care about one more group of people that's going to ask me to go buy them food somewhere. Like I don't. Yeah. And like. So it's less obnoxious in that regard, and like one of the DLCs on the first game was basically just an endless mode where you just went in and you played, and the story stuff was taken out, and I like that way better than the standard. So the fact that they've basically removed the overarching narrative and the only story kind of stuff is really like the different characters have different personalities or have different there's quest chains you can do. Like there was a quest chain.
Yeah, I mean you can build your characters to be pretty much anything you want.
Yeah,
that I like the flexibility.
And there's like quest chains where I ran into 3 guys who want to start an auto repair shop, which is like that's an interesting goal in the post-apocalyptic zombie world, but okay. So I'm like, yeah, I'd like to have a place I could repair my cars. That's cool, because car repair is a thing.
It is, yeah. You have to repair it and fuel it.
And you can't, if you can craft repair kits for cars, I do not have the facilities to do it.
I do actually have that.
So I don't have a car, an auto mechanic thing.
It wasn't really a mechanic, though. It was just like a machine shop or something. Yeah.
I don't have a room for that.
And eventually you get mods that you can use to craft them.
Yeah, I just craft rifle bullets and Molotovs mostly. So I was hoping to rely on them to sort of do that for me. And in the last mission in the quest chain, the leader got killed because of a glitch, and that was the end of it. Like I couldn't. And then the two guys remaining are like, we don't know what to do without our leader now. Can we just join you? I'm like, fine. Just, sure. I don't care anymore. And then one of them, it turned out because
that actually sums up my entire opinion
and then one
on
of
this
them's
game.
An idiot.
After I got past the first 5 hours, I just don't care.
One of them's
anymore.
an idiot, and he keeps ruining like medical equipment and stuff. I'm just like, stop letting him near the infirmary. What are you doing?
I get messages from I tried to improve the house, but I screwed up. Like that person over and over and over again. I got that.
Well, like
message.
when like you run out of storage space and you can store stuff over what your maximum is, but it'll like decay or like.
Right.
And like if you just keep living stuff around, like we're gonna keep losing supplies. I'm like, if you just don't shut up, I'm gonna store them in you.
Well, I mean, there's also
because none of these other guys ever do anything. Like periodically, like
they'll defend the base if you're not there.
Defend the base.
Zombie attacks happen on your base every once in a while.
But sometimes you'll see a little message like, "Oh, I got this while I was out." And you'll get like 1 bottle of painkillers and like a bag of chips or something. Yeah. And I'm like, "Hey, why don't you go on a food run?
Yeah.
Like if you could assign survivors to go out and like do like scavenging missions, like what you're doing, because right now one of the main problems I have with it is like I was hoping to kind of make the community a little more active from the first, compared to the first game, where like you can kind of assign people tasks and have them go do stuff and things, and that's not really here. Like you are, the food goes down real fast, especially when you get a certain number of survivors. Like they're eating 7 or 8 per thing, and like
per
day. And
it takes a while to get enough outposts.
And get an outpost, or like I've used outposts. I don't have any food outposts.
Really?
I just do it manually, and I have a hydroponics. That's why I got the power station, so I could build a hydroponics garden.
And see, that is one thing that's cool about the game, is that you can kind of shape it to how you want to play. I, on the other hand, first 3 outposts I claimed were food outposts because I got sick of coming back and them all being like, I'm dying, I'm hungry, I'm starving. And so I'm like, that seemed to be the resource that dwindled the quickest for me. And so I went out and kind of
For me, it was, I think medical was my first one, and ammo, and then I had to get beds because for some reason, that was another fun thing. When I first moved into the base I moved into had more beds than I needed. Plus I had 2 from an outpost. And when I moved in, for some reason, it said I had none. That everybody was not sleeping well because there were only 2 beds. The only beds it counted as me having were the 2 from the outpost. And I'm like, the reason I picked this place is because it had like 8 beds in it.
Right.
And it took until I reloaded the game the next day that then it said I had as many beds as I needed. But by then the morale damage was done.
There's all kinds of crap like that happens in this game. Like you think like, oh, I didn't do something right, and then you find out, no, that was just a bug.
Yeah,
like,
it just wasn't. It just wasn't working.
It wasn't registering it. Yeah.
If they ever get this up to the point where it's like all functioning more or less properly, it'll be a great little game. But right now, like, I mean, I had fun with it. If you're not afraid of like technical bugs and glitches and like losing some progress and being screwed by the autosave system because nothing works properly, like, go for it, you know. But like,
I think $30 is probably the right price for it. If you're a survival game fan,
if it was functioning on all cylinders, yeah, I would say.
I think if it was functioning on all cylinders and working the way it's supposed to, it'd probably be worth a little more than $30 though. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't never pay.
Maybe if it looked better.
I mean, again, I don't like this genre. I would never pay full price for a game like this. But if you're into this genre, I think if it worked the way it was supposed to, and there weren't so many glitches and graphical issues and all the other stuff, it would probably be worth like $40 or $50. But as it is, I mean, I think probably we both recommend that you wait for a couple months to see if they can patch some of this stuff up.
I would definitely put this on the wait and see list.
Because it's frustrating. I mean, if you're driving back and you have like 4 or 5 rucksacks in your vehicle and it just, something crazy happens and it blows up.
You hit a gerbil and it explodes.
Yeah, and like, I'll say this, like I never had a case where I lost anything. Mm-hmm. One time though, I thought I lost something. My vehicle got stranded way out, and then I go outside and there's a rucksack sitting on the grass.
One thing I will say about this game that impresses me is how all the persistence in it.
Yeah.
If you park a car at a certain place,
it's there,
and you leave and don't look at it again for 15 hours, when you come back, that car will be there, and whatever you had in that car will be in there.
It's true.
Like the persistence of where you leave objects and where you leave everything is very, very good.
But I had lots of quests that glitched like halfway through, like a multi-step quest.
When you have quests that like you're supposed to like switch to a particular, you know, you have to do this quest, you have to switch to this character, enable exclamation point in the community screen. But a couple times, like, usually it's better to talk to them directly and switch to them that way, because if you switch through the menu screen, sometimes the quest doesn't trigger.
Yep.
And then it disappears until you switch off that character and let them sit around for like 30 minutes, and then that quest will pop back up.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff like that. There's a whole thing where if you have a companion character and you go back to base and a zombie attack happens, this happened to me multiple times. Your companion character will disappear and you won't be able to find them. And you'll see the little marker on the screen, but there will be nothing there. There'll be no one there. So to get them back, you have to switch to them in the menu screen, and that will make your original character their companion, and then you can talk to them and switch back and then dismiss them, because otherwise they'll follow you forever, and you can't bring in any other companion characters, any other followers, because you've already got one. But you can't. He's invisible, so you can't talk to them and get rid of. It's just and like at a certain point, you learn to work around this so much that it doesn't even register anymore. Like I forgot about having to do that until like you just mentioned.
You start to expect it after a while.
It's just like part of the game is working around the technical shortcomings.
Which, I mean, I said earlier,
which isn't fun.
I haven't played a game that's broken or buggy in a long time. I haven't played a game this broken or buggy maybe ever that came from a first-party publisher.
Like this, in a lot of, and I don't mean it, I'm not trying to be mean when I say it, I just mean like, it feels like playing like the early access version of a Kickstarter game.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't feel like something Microsoft put out.
No, definitely not.
It's like I want a Jeff Keighley Last Days, Final Hours documentary on this one, because it must have just been a bunch of people going like, I don't know, I guess.
What can we do? We've been working on it for 4 years and we still can't figure it out. I mean, you can blatantly see why this game was delayed a couple times.
Oh yeah.
But still, it should have been delayed again.
Yeah, it's not finished baking.
It's hard to get back first impressions. I mean, will the studio even make another game after this? I mean, it'll probably end up making money somehow still. The first one's ended up selling pretty well.
Yeah, and it's fun. I mean, if they get it up there, it's fun. I mean, weirder things have happened.
Yeah.
We got another version of No Man's Sky coming out in a couple months.
Yeah, that's right. But I think both of us can agree that for now, people should hold off.
Yeah, I would wait and see on this one if you haven't already done it.
Yep.
Yeah. Like,
well, I don't think they could yet.
Well, you could if you bought the Ultimate Edition.
Well, I would hope nobody.
In which case, you already know.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I would definitely.
You're already living in a puddle of regret.
Don't race from this live stream to
go buy the game.
Buy the game before it goes live at 9. Just hang out.
Yeah, I promise we will be more entertaining. Actually, some of the bugs are kind of fun and entertaining. I'll say that much, but ultimately the frustration.
I would find it less annoying if if there was any control over the saving system.
Yeah.
Like the fact that like you just can't control. If
you don't save at all.
Something goes horribly wrong, the game has already auto-saved it, and you're stuck with it.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter. And like, because my concern, I'm many hours in. I've got a lot of characters that really fulfill very useful functions and important function. I've specialized several of them to do various things I need them to do, and I've just gotten to the point where I'm too worried that like something weird's going to happen and one of them's going to die through no fault of mine. And I'm cool with like a relentless autosave system that makes you live with your consequences of your actions or your mistakes. But these aren't my mistakes.
It's the
game's mistakes. Yeah. So I gotta wait until they figure that out, if they ever figure it out.
Yep. All right, let's move on. We're going to talk next about ONRUSH. You guys remember MotorStorm? Remember that little racing game that was a PlayStation exclusive through the whole PS3 era?
It was the racing version of Killzone.
Yeah, it actually was kind of. That's a good way to describe it. So that studio, Evolution Studios, eventually Sony decided it did not want to publish MotorStorm anymore, which I'm kind of surprised at. I mean, it was kind of like, I don't know, Sony's version of Forza Horizon, I guess is a good way to put it. It was like their first-party arcade-style racing game.
Well, they put a bunch of them out. Like it was a regular series. And
remember, it was like one of the first PlayStation 3 games to play in 3D.
Right.
Remember when Sony had that big 3D push there for a while?
Yeah.
And they put out their PlayStation-branded 3D TV. Remember that?
Yeah.
MotorStorm was kind of the poster child.
That had like the PlayStation built into it, kind of thing.
No, it wasn't. It was just they just
thing?
they just had a branded PlayStation TV for 3D. That was like a good deal. Like it was like a 40-inch TV that you could get for like a couple $100 or whatever. But anyway, that was kind of the beginning of the end for MotorStorm. MotorStorm had an auspicious debut. The second game did real well, and then after that, it just kind of fell off a cliff.
Yeah, I don't remember which one. I think which one was. I don't remember which one it was, but it was like called Pacific Fire or something like that. And most of it took place like in like
Pacific Drift.
It took place in like the Ring of Fire. It was a lot of volcanic activity.
Yeah.
I thought that one was pretty good.
Well, they were always set at like a music festival for some reason. What is it with racing games that they think people just go to like festivals and like drive around real fast?
I don't know. I feel like Forza Horizon gets shut down pretty fast.
Yeah.
Colorado's a very tolerant state, but
It
I don't think they'll take 4,000 dudes in Lamborghinis like tearing around the place, knocking old women off cliffs and stuff.
Yeah. So this is the studio, Evolution Studios. What happened was apparently I think Sony owns the name Evolution Studios.
Yeah, that's probably true.
But what happened was Sony cut them loose, and then Codemasters bought the studio, and now they're called like Codemasters, whatever town that they're in or whatever.
How must that feel when they're like, yeah, you got to go. You've made like 4 games for us, and meanwhile, like Team Eco's still making like
one game
Last
every 12
Guardian
years
since like 2004.
Yeah, so this is Evolution Studios. I'm going to keep calling them that. This is their new game. It's called ONRUSH. It is an arcade-style racer, and it does have a lot of. It does share a lot of DNA with MotorStorm. Probably the biggest thing is that it's a multi-discipline racer. So you have motorbikes, you have trucks, you have cars, and you have dune buggies. But a lot of things about this game are completely different, not just for MotorStorm, but for driving games in general. And I feel like we're on a roll here. We had Trailblazers, which kind of broke the mold for racing games by kind of combining Splatoon and F-Zero elements into one racing game. This game, there's no finish line. Think about that.
So you just have to destroy everybody? Or?
So I've been playing the beta. The beta has 2 different modes and 2 different tracks. And the 2 different modes, one of them is essentially you have to get as many boost points as possible to win the race. And it's teams. It's six racers on one team against 6 on the other team. And then there are also tons of AI racers thrown in with your race. And so one of the modes was just get as many points as possible. You get points for running other players off the track. You get points for running the AI guys off the track. You get points for boosting. And then the other mode that was there was a gates mode, basically, where you had to drive through gates. And the catch is, if you tried to drive through the other team's gate, you would actually slow down and eventually explode. But because there's no finish line, when you crash or you fly off course, you don't have to like drive back on the course, or they don't reset you where you went off the course. They drop you right in with everybody, right in with the action and the heat of everything, which makes sense. It's because it doesn't matter who gets across the finish line first. What matters and what determines who wins is who essentially works the game systems as best as possible. I found this to be extremely refreshing. One thing I would say, though, is the races can end pretty quickly. I think my first race lasted maybe like a minute and a half. But the game's really good about getting you back in a race just like that. Like, it has the Call of Duty Online aesthetic, where you finish a match and, like, in a heartbeat, you're raring to go and you're ready to go back into it. And the developers have actually kind of compared this game to a lot of other games like that, like Call of Duty. They followed a lot of Call of Duty's network sort of benchmarks for creating this game. And then the reason it's called ONRUSH is you have turbo, and as you use turbo, there's a meter that you can't see because it's covered by the graphic that will eventually fill up. And once it gets to 100%, you can hit the triangle button, and then you get rush mode, and that's where you just go like nuclear fast. The handling
that reminds me a little bit of Split Second.
Yeah. I guess it is kind of similar. But
except Split Second was about affecting the environment more than
right.
anything else.
Yeah, and there are tricks in the game. You can barrel roll on the motorcycles. Obviously, you have more tricks. There's like 4 tricks per vehicle, basically one for each direction on the D-pad, and you hit a button. But I've had a ton of fun.
The guys on the bike seem like they have a harder time.
Well, it's funny. Like, eventually you'll see me playing with the bikes. It's kind of ridiculous because, like, you'll come up on a car on the bike, and if you're going faster than the car will fly off track. Like, your speed is just too much for it to handle. But what I love about this game is the chaos. Because it's 6-on-6, you already have 12 in each race, and they keep throwing the AI guys in with you, it is just total mayhem. And there's stuff like flying all over the place, and vehicles and car parts and parts of trees, and sometimes you just like almost squint your eyes because you're like, oh my gosh, here comes all this debris, and you end up flying out the other side of it. It's a very exhilarating racing game. And again, with no finish line, it kind of changes how you play the game. Now, they have said there will be loot crates in this, but they're all cosmetics. So they also compared this game to Overwatch in that they want each driver and car to be kind of a character that has positive and negative attributes so that everyone can kind of find a vehicle that they really can relate to. And so they're trying to say it's like a character-based driving game.
Okay.
Yeah, after to be honest with you, after playing it, I didn't really get that vibe from it at all. But it is a demo, and so a lot of the stuff was kind of limited. Like, you couldn't like customize your driver. You couldn't customize the cars. I'm guessing that's maybe where it finally kind of gets into that territory. But
Rocket League proved that there's meat on that bone.
They also compared themselves to Rocket League. Basically, they've compared themselves to every popular game from the last 3 years.
Where's the Battle Royale mode?
Yeah, I'm sure it's probably coming. But but I actually had a ton of fun with this game. The funny part, too, is that I got up today, I did like all the pre-show prep for GameFace, and I was like, all right, I need to get some ONRUSH time in. I sat down, I played it for 2 or 3 hours, went and cut the B-roll together, which is what we're watching right now. I went back to play it, and the beta was over. Like, I literally got in right under the gun and got some time to play it. So unfortunately, you guys cannot go and play this for yourselves now. The open beta is over already. But I was pleasantly surprised by this. I liked MotorStorm. After I got to, after the second game, I was like, all right, I'm kind of burnt out on this. But to me, this game kind of has all the good parts of MotorStorm without the bad parts. Remember how the wrecking was a big part in MotorStorm? And the wrecks sometimes would take, literally 30 seconds to complete because they tried to show off all the ragdoll physics and everything. Meanwhile, everybody's, lapped you on the track. They get rid of all that stuff because literally, you'll see once I crash here, it's like whap, and then it'll just throw you, right back into the race. So I've had a ton of fun with it, with what I've played so far. It is a different racing game, which again, that's 2 for 2 in the last couple weeks. We're starting to see some innovation in this genre finally. And it seemed really polished to me. 2 tracks, 2 modes, not that hard to polish that up for a demo. But what I played was very responsive. I love the handling in the game. I really liked it. That's 2 racing games that I really enjoyed in the last month, and it was a genre before this where I kind of felt like things had just gotten really stale. So I've had a lot of fun with it. I think it comes out June 5th for PC, PS4, and Xbox One.
So kind of destined to be lost in the E3
It's
shuffle.
very possible. I mean, it's good it came out on the 5th. That way the reviews for the game at least will
just a
hit
week
before E3 comes out. There's no other racing game like it. So maybe it has a chance. I think it's a shame, though, that a lot of people won't realize, hey, these are the MotorStorm guys. Because I think if they were able to kind of tout that a little bit more,
You can kind of see the pedigree just looking at it.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful game. You can see it runs like Grease Lightning. I think it's, from what I can tell, it seems like it's pegged at 60, which makes sense. Their last engine was pretty impressive too. There's the gates I was talking about. This is one of the other modes where you have to go through the gates to collect points. But yeah, ONRUSH, I've had a ton of fun with it. Comes out in a few weeks for pretty much every platform as long as you're not Switch only. So there you go. Let's move on. We're going to talk next about a game that came out for the PlayStation 3. Mm-hmm. Another game, we're going back to the PS3 again. Dragon's Crown Pro. Dragon's Crown came out for the PS3. What year was that, Matt? Yeah, I don't remember either.
Like 2011, 2012?
It doesn't seem like it was all that long ago.
No, I can't remember if we did it on G4 or not, because that's kind of like the
gray area.
Marker for me is like if it came out at like 2013, maybe it kind of blends in.
Yeah. So what's up with it? You've been playing it. What's the story with it?
So this is just like it's just straight remaster of the original PS3 game. Just basically it runs on modern systems now. Yeah, and it's by Vanillaware, who did Odin Sphere, and
you can tell just seeing the
art.
The
the way they animate is the same. It's like that kind of like sprite-driven, hyper detailed art sort of thing. And so this is kind of it's very D&D inspired to the point that like it's almost like you're playing like a campaign, and like so there's a narrator. There's not really a lot of dialogue. It's more of a narrator that reads you. It's like a dungeon master kind of like reading you what's happening. It's like you go to the tavern. In the tavern, an old man greets you, and da, 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 da. And sometimes he'll do like a little like he says, "What do you do?" So it's like it's all kind of this one narrator guy like telling you the story of
Does
what
he
you're
narrate
doing.
like the whole game?
Pretty much.
Kind of like what you get with like a Super Giant games?
Yeah, sort of like that.
Okay.
Except it's like he's sitting there telling you a story almost, as you go ahead and do all these things. And like the way it's done very much like a tabletop RPG in terms of like how that works, how that's phrased, I guess. Like it's like when it's time for your main quest to continue, he'll say something like it's like, you needed to find the talisman of whatever, so you went to the tower and asked the wizard about it. And it's like, well, you haven't done that yet, but it's like that's how it tells you what you need to do.
Got you.
I think that's kind of fun, like the way it all works, and especially like it's probably even a little more relevant now that like live stream D&D playing has become like a big thing now. Like
has it?
Critical Role and like there's a whole separate like channel population on Twitch for that now, and like. Yeah, it's like tuning in to watch people play D&D is a thing. Critical Role, especially, to the point that you can get the Critical Role guys in Pillars of Eternity 2 Deadfire as characters.
Crazy, yeah.
I mean, as voiceovers. So what the gameplay is, it's an action RPG. It's overall because you're equipping equipment and you're gathering loot and you're identifying magical things and you're pimping your character out as you need to, but it's really a side-scrolling beat 'em up, as you can see.
That's what it looks like, yeah.
It's Final Fight, Streets of Rage, that kind of thing. It's your usual Vanillaware combat where there's it's simple and you can just get away with hammering the attack button, but if you want to, there's crazy combos you can do, stuff like that. It's a slow burn, so like, and there's a lot of weird things it has to teach you. So it takes a couple hours because there is actually online play. You can play four-player co-op at any time. Like you can do whatever you go off and just do whatever you want. But that doesn't unlock for a few hours because at first it takes you through all the levels basically that exist in the game. And that's like, I think 8 or 9 at least. And the trick to it is, so you have your character that you pick, and then you have a friend, you can see a little thief there with the bag.
Yeah.
So you control him, so you control your character with the analog stick. And then the right analog stick moves a cursor around the screen. And like you can move the cursor around and you can move it to like click on things and find hidden loot. And you can use it to click on locked doors or locked chests, and your thief buddy will run over and unlock it.
So you're kind of, even if you're playing by yourself, you're kind of controlling the other characters still.
No, you're only controlling that thief guy. The other characters.
But you can instruct the other characters to do stuff.
Not really. You can make them drop stuff if you want. But the thief is your buddy. The thief is your sidekick. He's not one of the other characters.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So you can't play as him. He's the guy who goes around and unlocks things for you. You get rune magic. So like there's runes hidden in the background of the art of the backdrops, and you can click on them and then cast various spells with them.
Almost sounds like this game might be better played on a PC.
No, it works really well with a
Yeah?
controller. It's very much designed for. I mean, it would work on a PC just fine, but like you'd want to still play with a controller, no question. And then so you go through this early stuff with all the questing, kind of more story-driven stuff. And once you've completed all the main levels and kind of like open the main story up, where you've kind of learned that like, okay, you need to get these 9 talismans to stop this evil dragon from another dimension who's coming to die. Then the game opens up and says, okay, because until then you're going through this portal that lets you teleport to any of the levels, and now it's like, okay, if you go through the portal, you can't control it anymore. You can only go to a random level, so you don't know where you're going. And once you've got the way the talisman thing works is you can go through all the levels as much as you want, but at a certain point you meet a character in each level, whatever the character is in that level, and from that point you have a choice to go to the A route or the B route. The B route is much, much higher level than the A route. And the B route, completing the B route sends you to the harder version of the level with a totally different path, a totally different boss. Some of the bosses are really nasty.
So it gives you some incentive to play it again as well.
Well, you're still grinding through the whole. I mean, I'm level like 30 something right now, and the max level for a character is 255.
Oh wow!
And so you can play harder difficulties and keep going and go for it, and then at the same time, you can play with other people however you want. You can, if you can set it so every time you go through that portal, it jumps you in another person's game, and from that you complete the level. And after the level, once you're in that section of the game where it's kind of opened up, you can either go every other level like you played in the first kind of tutorial section, the first couple hours of the game. It sends you back to town. You identify your gear, you sell stuff, you repair your gear, you get your new quest. So when you're in the open part of the game, you can just keep going and say, just send me to another. And like you get bonuses like 150% gold if you do another level. Like keep going. So the idea is you can just keep going until you run out of items or you run out of durability on your equipment or you get killed. Over and over and over, and you can just rack up. I mean, the first time I did that, I doubled my money that I'd made for hours and hours. So I had like 60,000 gold for like for playing like the first like chunk of the game. And my first thing, I went through like 4 levels, and I came back with like 60,000 just from that.
Jeez.
And there's like a cooking mini game. Like there's tons of stuff. I mean, it's repetitive because it's a hack and slash. And you're doing the same, but it's fun. And like each character plays completely different. You got a fighter, you got a dwarf that jumps around and throws hammers. You've got a wizard who can cast various spells. A sorceress has different spells and different kind of style to her. You got an archer that's an elf. There's a lot in here to play with, and it lasts forever if you happen to like the gameplay. You can just go on and on and on. And then like once you're done with that, you've got 5 other character classes to level up through the whole thing again. And once you unlock the online and all that the first time, if you pick another character, you can skip.
Oh, that's good.
The story-driven quest part of the beginning. You just jump straight to the part where you have to start collecting talismans, if you want to do that.
Is there a separate mode for playing co-op, or are you playing through the same campaign when you play with other people?
The way the campaign kind of works is you bring all the stuff back to your town. So basically, like as you go through with the co-op online game, like you open the chests, and chest gives you a treasure of a particular rating, rated S down through grade E. And at the end of the level, you have each chest you open is an unidentified item with the letter grade on it, and you can choose to pay money to identify them or just sell them off. And so everybody gets that. Okay. So everybody keeps their own loot, and you don't really get to kind of divide it up and see what you got until you've decided to say go back to town, and that takes you out of the co-op session.
Okay.
So all the events that progress the story happen in town, and the town is always just you. Meanwhile, so like if I went to another person's game and we went through the B route of a level that I'd never gone through, at the end of that, if we beat the boss, I will get the talisman for that level. It still counts.
Okay.
But I won't no consequences will come of that until I come back to my town and sort of like back to my home base and sort of like sort everything out.
Now, does this include? I don't even know if the game originally had any DLC.
I don't think it did.
Yeah, I mean, it's a PS3 game.
It had
It's before DLC's time.
Yeah, it had patches.
Not really.
No, not at all. But like, it did not have any significant DLC as far as I can remember. The online play is better here. It was very spotty in the original
as far as
game.
lag and stuff like that?
As far as like just getting into a game, like here it's just boom, boom, it just goes. Like you wouldn't even know you're playing online sometimes, in terms of how long it takes to get into somebody's game. It does have a lot of quality of life improvements that didn't happen in the PS3 game until a few patches had come through. So like what I said about skipping the first part of the game, that was not in the original game at launch. They added that later when they did some patching. The saves are compatible with the PS3 version and the Vita version.
Oh, really?
So if you...
How did they pull that off? How does it work?
It's all through the cloud.
Oh, okay.
So you just upload it to the cloud, and it can pull down the save.
So you have to go back on your PS3, get the save, upload it to the cloud, and then it'll go and latch onto it and pull it in.
Now, if you were playing between the PS Vita and the PS3, you were already doing that.
Right.
So it may already be up there if you were playing back and forth between portable and console. But you can't. I did not do that because I didn't remember anything about what I'd done. So I just started over, and that was fine. But you can. If you were a Dragon's Crown fanatic and you played for like 100 hours, you don't want to lose that progress. It still counts. In fact, the trophies still count too. You don't start over with the trophies. It's all considered the same game.
Oh, really?
It's all all three versions are considered the exact same game.
Are you happy with that, or would you rather be able to add to your trophy count?
I don't care about that.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing that's nice about the trophy thing is like it proves that you're progressing.
Right.
But like the sense of progression in this game is pretty strong already, so I didn't mind it.
How much is it?
I want to say it was 40.
And this is digital only?
No, I think there's a physical version.
Is there?
I think so. I don't remember for sure.
Is it worth $40?
I like it. I mean,
right, but is it worth $40? That seems steep to me.
The trick to it is like I think there's nothing much else like it.
Yeah.
Like I think if you don't want to pay the $40, I can't really tell you something else to buy instead.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the key for me. And look, if you don't want to pay $40, I promise you this is going to drop in price real fast.
Yeah.
It's like
it'll be $20 in 3 months.
Yeah, it won't be at 3 months, but by Christmas, I think you'll be able to get it half price.
Yeah.
I think that doesn't seem unusual to me that you would get some pretty good deals on this come holiday season. But if you like Dragon's Crown, I mean, I feel like this is mainly for people who like the original game and want to play it.
Did the first game do that well?
It had its niche.
Yeah, it didn't seem like it was huge though.
But I mean,
Vanillaware
has
stuff.
Vanillaware has its audience, and that's that. I mean, it's like Dark Souls. Like Dark Souls' audience is bigger, obviously.
Well, it's like a lot of this game's published by Atlas. It's like a lot of Atlas games. It knows how big the audience is for each of those franchises, and it operates around those expectations.
It does the Star Trek movie thing.
Yeah,
where they knew exactly
how
much.
Okay, this is how much we can spend on it,
and this is how many people will come see it, and like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So what about maybe for people who have never played Vanillaware games? Is this a good place to jump in, do you think?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think it's easier to kind of get your head around all the systems than it is, and it's less repetitive in some ways than Odin Sphere because you can pick between. Odin Sphere requires you to slog through a lot of stuff to replay the game as a different character. This one gives you a lot more freedom to just switch it up whenever you want. The various characters you pick up, because you can like have NPC characters that join you as co-op partners, or you can play online with people. And look, if you like kind of that Final Fight arcade beat 'em up thing, like this thing does it better than just about anything I've played since those days. I mean,
wow.
It feels on par with something like the old Streets of Rage games or Final Fight at least. It's not even that simple.
That's a good endorsement.
Vanillaware has a deeper combo system than most of those games did, obviously, but I think it delivers just about on every front. There, I mean,
as far as that genre is concerned.
Yeah, I mean, it's the only shortcoming I could see for anybody would be if you really don't like huge boobs. This game has a lot of that.
Show me someone who doesn't like.
There's a definite influence of like Frazetta and kind of that sword and sandal barbarian sort of thing. Some people might find a little distasteful, but like. And it is pretty ridiculous. Like it looks kind of absurd, especially the sorceress looks ridiculous. But like, I like kind of the ridiculous, exaggerated thing going on. And like, I play as the
I think we all do.
I play as the fighter who is just like a giant he's a giant tank. You can see him there. He's a giant tank of armor.
Yeah.
But then when he takes his helmet off, you leave him idle for a while. He takes his helmet off, and he's a beautiful young man with like flowing blonde hair that looks like he stepped out of a Sailor Moon episode.
Yeah.
And like, I think that's pretty funny. He also has a much deeper voice than the face indicates he would have. But I dig it.
If you buy this, do you get the Vita version as well?
I don't think you do. No.
Yeah, I kind of wondered. I wonder if back when it came out initially, was it a cross-buy?
I don't think it was.
Okay.
That'd
be a little dicey if they.
No,
didn't
I
give you-
recall being because that was a period where a lot of stuff was cross-buy automatically. But I seem to recall these came out separately. I think they did, and you had to buy both. I think you had to buy both because I don't have the Vita version. I think that's why.
Gotcha.
Or if I do have the Vita version, I got it like free or from PS Plus or something like that.
Did this come out for Vita?
Yes.
Pro, it did.
Not Pro. Pro is the PS4.
That's what I
version.
mean. Yeah, so they haven't re-released it for Vita.
I don't see why you need to. It already looks fine on the Vita.
Yeah, and I guess the Vita ended up getting all the same updates as the PS3 version.
The thing on this is just to have something you can play it on the PS4 and something that supports like the Pro's 4K. Because upscaling 2D stuff is sketchy at best.
Tough,
so, but they did a good job here. It looks good. It doesn't look like a cheap kind of up-res job. It looks like they did it right. I haven't noticed anything on my 4K TV that's like, oh my god, that's an old asset. It's like, no, it all looks really nice.
All right, so there you go. Dragon's Crown Pro, only for PS4, right?
Yeah.
Any rumblings of it coming to other platforms?
I wouldn't think so.
Yeah, I haven't heard of it.
Vanillaware seems to stick to the PlayStation. I mean, not to do the frickin' perfect for Switch thing,
Right,
but like
yeah.
it would be a good Switch game.
Yeah, on the go, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, the online would be sketchy, but like it's a very good bite-sized game. Like you can just do one level or a string of levels if you want, and like you're done. You go back, it auto saves. You're done. Turn it off. You played for 10 minutes. You're good. You made some progress. Cool. So it worked well on the Vita for that reason, and it'll work well on the Switch for that reason.
It would not surprise me if it's eventually announced for Switch.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if where Vanillaware stands on that idea, but like, or where Nintendo stands on. Actually, I guess we do know where Nintendo stands on giant boobs, considering Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
Yeah, there you go.
So yeah,
100% okay.
Runway's clear. Bring it in.
All right. Well, it's another week, and we're getting close to E3, which means it's another week of rumors. And there's no publisher or company in the industry that is more ripe for rumors and leaks than Nintendo.
Seems like it.
You can always go back and remember the Nintendo On. Remember the whole fake Nintendo console?
That one got me a little bit.
It got a lot of people.
I felt like that could be a real thing.
But here's the thing. I think that taught people some valuable lessons because it did seem so believable. Because up until that point, we had never seen someone go so far to create a hoax. I mean, it looked like a video that Nintendo had produced. It looked really professional.
Yeah, that was not just EGM pasting Shenlong onto a screenshot.
No, whoever did that spent a lot of time on it and was smart about it.
I hope whoever did that has a good job now.
Yeah, I'm guessing that they do. I wouldn't be surprised if Nintendo ended up hiring that person. So that is one of those instances from the past that has kind of put me on guard ever since, whenever it comes to stuff like this. Here's another example. So this week it was leaked. Nintendo, essentially the rundown for Nintendo's Direct for E3 and the first day of stage demos from the Treehouse when Nintendo does its live stream. And I will say this, much like that Nintendo On video, whoever did this, if it is in fact fake, was very, very smart about it. It right down to, okay, who are the people at the Treehouse that always demo stuff at E3? Of those people, who usually handles the platformers? Who usually handles the action games? Who usually handles the M-rated games? All of it. It was just, if it's a fake, it was a masterful fake.
At the same time, in the words of Megatron from Beast Wars, when serving bait, presentation is everything.
It is, yeah. Well, I mean, also, that's the other thing that got me too, is that I've seen those sheets before. I've seen Nintendo's worksheets, and
if you've seen them, other people have seen them too.
Oh yeah, right.
So
but I'm saying, like, he's done his homework. Whoever, if it's
fake, well played.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the best way to put it. So some of the games, I mean, you start going through them, they all do kind of make sense. Probably the biggest one, Punch-Out! Become a Champion. Mm-hmm. A new Punch-Out! Game.
Yeah, that's the other thing is like, and I know that people know this, and like some people try to kind of like that title is just dumb enough to be real.
Yeah.
Like like I mean, it's like it's a subtle.
Well, they
way
already
of doing
named
that.
the last one for Wii U. Was it Wii U or was it Wii?
Wii, I think.
Wii.
Yeah.
I mean, that one was already just the rebooted Punch-Out!
Right.
Or no, wait, was there a subtitle for that?
I don't remember if there was a subtitle for that. I didn't get too far into that game.
Yeah, I'm a huge. I mean, if you followed me for any amount of time, you know I'm a huge Punch-Out! Fan.
I played that game. I played it like when we got like the preview code, I think. But when it came to really putting down the $50 for it, like.
Yeah.
And then of course
really
it's one of those games I'd pick up like real cheap, but Nintendo games never get real cheap,
Right.
so that was sort of the end of that.
That might be a collector's item at this point. That game.
A lot of Wii stuff is. You'd be surprised.
Yeah. And so this game, Punch-Out! Become a Champion, on the demo sheet, it was one of the games that the Treehouse is supposed to demo. And again, like the descriptions for what they were going to do for those segments were very well done. For this one, it talked about how there's a brand new combat system and that's what the crux of the demo is about, showing off that new combat system for the first time, because obviously Punch-Out! Has kind of been the same for a long time. It's really kind of pattern memorization is typically what gets you through those games, and being quick. And so it looks like it's going to revamp the franchise if it is in fact real. F-Zero SX.
Switch X, I guess.
Well,
I mean, look, they have the. I mean, it's a pretty average extrapolation from the titling of the previous ones. So, GX
F-Zero X.
F-Zero X.
F-Zero GX.
GX was the GameCube one, and AX was the arcade one.
Right.
So SX would make sense.
Again, that's what I'm saying. Whoever did this, if it's fake, has really got all their ducks in a row.
And I'm up for F-Zero whenever you want to throw it at me. Basically.
Yeah, absolutely. What else? Fortnite on Switch, which no brainer.
Makes sense.
I mean, it can absolutely run on Switch as well. I mean, it is one of those games that it does not push hardware to the limits on the systems.
I mean, you can run Unreal on that thing, so sure.
Oh, absolutely. And it's a very simple art style. It's not really geometry heavy. Mm-hmm. I very easily could get it to work. And why wouldn't Epic put it on Switch?
Right.
I mean, I think that's an absolute no-brainer. And it'll end up just generating megatons of revenue for Epic.
Yeah, the only
Switch.
limiting thing on it is you have to wait for the online infrastructure to be in place.
Which I'm guessing it'll probably launch right around that time.
About that, yeah. I mean, I would think this could be maybe in October. You know, it would be a good launch thing. I mean, I don't know. I'm interested.
I mean, put that out at the holidays, it becomes probably the best-selling Switch game of the holidays.
Well, except it doesn't sell because it's free.
Right.
But like most money making, I guess. But
it's not all free, right?
Just the Battle Royale is. That's the only thing anyone cares about.
I don't know. I know some people that play the other mode.
Yeah, it's the Battle Royale.
Battle Royale is what made it a sensation.
Yeah,
absolutely.
the Battle. I mean, they've changed the icon. I mean, it doesn't. It's Battle Royale now. Like the rest of the game is basically an afterthought.
They're still updating the other parts of the game
though.
They're still getting like new DLC and stuff like that.
A lot of people I know who love the Battle Royale mode use the other mode as practice.
Right. Yeah. Less hectic, so they can learn how to
build.
How
to build stuff and
Yeah, I can totally see that. Dragon Ball Fighters again makes sense. That one.
Why not?
That one I question whether it can run on Switch.
I think it can probably. I mean,
those are polygonal visuals.
Yeah, but like it's not like they're crazy. It's not crazy tech happening.
Well, it is also a fighting game, which means you're not drawing this vast environment. But again,
and there's probably ways to cheat if you really had to. But I mean, it looks good because it looks so much like the source material. But I don't feel like there's anything happening in this game that would be too much for the Switch to handle. And also, if I feel like if you're having frame rate problems in this game, it's not coming to Switch. So,
you're right.
If they announce it, I'm sure it'll be fine. Like, and I remember, like, you know, Guilty Gear and Blaze Blue were running graphics not too dissimilar from this on the last gen consoles.
No, you're right.
So
You're right.
I don't see that as a big stumbling point.
Also, a perfect fit for the demographic of Switch.
Yeah, I think so.
I have a feeling there's a lot of Dragon Ball fans that own Switch.
And it could be, you know, from the portability thing, which I don't care about, but like, you know, if you set this up well enough so that you could, like, you know, be on a train and be playing kind of local verses against other people with Switches in the game, you know, that'd be cool.
That would be cool.
I mean, it's probably not too common here, but in Japan, I would imagine that's a more prevalent feature.
Absolutely. Metroid Prime Renegade. Whoever this is has assigned a subtitle to Metroid Prime 4, which again, not surprising.
No, I do think I would not be at all surprised if it was not called actually Metroid Prime 4.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to...
I think
slapping that 4 on there is a little... you don't want to make people think like they need to play the other 3. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In fact, I remember that was even a problem for The Witcher, where they were, The Witcher 2, everyone was worried about like, oh, if we put The Witcher 2 out on the 360 and people don't think they can play it because they haven't played The Witcher 1, in the end it didn't matter. But it would make sense to me that they take the 4 out. Especially also because they probably, I feel like this game, despite it containing the Metroid Prime name, is going to be different.
I also wonder too if they might take the 4 out of there because it's not made by Retro.
I don't think they care about that.
I don't know. Given that number, though,
Nintendo,
that's like the Nintendo stamp of approval in a lot of ways.
No, it's not. Nintendo doesn't number their stuff hardly at all. Like they don't number the Mario games anymore.
No.
They don't number the Zelda games. They don't number anything.
Yeah,
really.
I guess you're right.
I mean, Pikmin's one of the only games that really gets series that has just numbers as to differentiate it.
Yeah.
Usually you just get a different weird name, which we're coming up on one for Yoshi.
Well, actually, let's just skip ahead to that because to me, the Metroid Prime Renegade was the one thing that kind of cocked my eyebrow. I was like, I don't know, that sounds a little fishy to me. But most people were pointing to Yoshi's Flipping Island, and people were like, "Oh, that's too edgy for Nintendo." But
I don't think so.
What people aren't real, and again, this is the genius of this. If it ends up being fake, is that the new Yoshi game, the art style is a flip book.
Right.
That's what the game is. It's
Right.
like it opens up and then the world pops up like a flip book. So again, if this person like,
and I can see that, and also like most. I mean, flipping as kind of a euphemism for fucking is more of like I associate that more with like a stereotypical Welsh accent.
Yeah.
I think a lot of Americans wouldn't even make that connection necessarily, especially when you just have everything literally flipping on the screen in front of you.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the gentle sort of semi-edgy humor that Nintendo has sort of the Treehouse era has sort of wandered into. If you play like a lot of the kind of the B-list, for lack of a better term, kind of the Mario and Luigi games, that kind of like that kind of humor's in there. Like they do, there's a couple things in there for Dad here and there.
Absolutely.
So I don't think this is a killer for me in terms of plausibility for this list.
I didn't think it was a killer at all. I was like, oh, I totally get that. I don't think that's a red flag to me at all.
I think that's exactly the level of kind of cutesy plausible deniability, like, oh, what do you mean, kind of thing. I think that's one of the most believable titles on this list to me.
Fire Emblem Memories.
Sure.
Nintendo loves its Fire Emblem anymore.
Yeah.
It's crazy how big a franchise that has kind of turned into for Nintendo.
Well,
it just kind of sat there dormant for like ever.
Yeah. Well, I mean, not in Japan. It was pretty regular. But
There was handheld games, but no real console games for like a really long time.
Yeah, they made it was on the Famicom, the Super Famicom, and I don't think there was a N64 version.
There was supposed to be, and it never ended up getting released.
The main thing is just we didn't get any until after Smash Brothers made everybody go like, who's this Marth guy?
Yeah, no, you're right.
And suddenly you started getting the remakes on GBA and stuff, and which is good because I'm as a big Shining Force fan. I mean, it's not. I don't like it as much as I like Shining Force for the most part. Although it's hard to say now because Shining Force has been dormant for like 20 years.
Yeah.
But I like Fire Emblem. I'll play whatever you want to throw at me Fire Emblem-wise. I was dumb enough to buy that Dynasty Warriors version. So sure. An actual Fire Emblem game? Sure, I'll take it.
And then, this one's weird. Fallout 3.
It makes sense to me.
Does it?
You ain't getting Fallout 4 on that system. So.
Well, we'll talk a little bit later in the show about maybe how some of that stuff can happen, but it'll never run natively.
No, and Fallout 3 I think would be an easy port, and if you can, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of.
You can squeeze another 300,000 sales out of it.
Sure.
Why not?
Sure.
Which it probably would.
I have no doubt.
Yeah.
It would probably run really well.
And you're also that's kind of Bethesda's MO with
Switch
so far. I mean, one, it's supporting Switch, but two, it's pulling really old games.
I mean, this would be an old. I mean, that's a 10-year-old game.
It is, yeah. But you got to realize, Nintendo fans have probably never played a Fallout ever.
And you still have kind of that, even when it's a ridiculous ancient port that people you would think already have 1 or 2 times over on other platforms, you get that battle cry of, oh, now it's portable.
Right.
And like, I don't care, but
Yeah.
like somebody does. And
Yeah.
that's free sales for a game that you've had on the shelf since 2008. Like,
Yep.
yeah, it's a pretty good business move.
Probably put a 20-man team on it for 6 months. And
Pretty good business move, and it also kind of keeps the fire going in the sense of like, hey, Bethesda's here and they're not going away and they're going to support this system, and that contract with Nintendo is going to keep getting re-signed until Nintendo gets tired of paying them for it, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I heard
it's a good deal for Bethesda. So
I heard through the grapevine that Skyrim sold around 700,000 copies worldwide on Switch.
which is, I mean, that's not amazing, but it's
Not bad.
not bad for a game that
game that's been
you'd
around.
think would be done.
Yeah. They just squeezed another almost million sales out of that thing years and years
You
later.
know what I'd like to know is how many copies the VR version sold, because
Yeah.
like I balk at paying $60 again for that game on anything.
Yeah.
But for me, like a VR version of it for $60 seems like a little more of a hey than
Yeah.
a Switch version of
Yeah.
it. Like, at least with the Switch version, you're getting a new copy of it on. To me, the VR version should have been an upgrade.
Right.
For
They should be able to tell that you had it in your library, and
Yeah.
then you automatically get to download.
like the special edition was.
Yeah.
So for PC anyway.
Yep. We were talking about Yoshi's Flipping Island. Pokemon Let's Go. They're saying Pokemon for Switch ties into Pokemon Go in some way.
Yeah, you got the portability aspect. I mean, you've got a downside in that you don't have like an LTE network or something, but
It can't do AR either, to the best of my knowledge.
now can you pair it with a phone?
I don't
at all?
believe so. I mean, maybe via Bluetooth?
Maybe-
Does Switch have Bluetooth?
Yeah,
Is that what connects to controllers?
I think so.
Yeah.
And maybe like a new kind of Joy-Con,
Could be.
like some kind of.
Well, the rumors were that there's another wrist-worn device that's going to come with the Switch version of the game.
Well, I also heard I haven't paid a ton of attention to the rumors on this one, but like there were people talking about like a Pikachu version and an Eevee version and
Yeah.
stuff. Like and like the detail on this seems so extreme that like especially the Eevee version, because the Eevee is a popular Pokemon in the Go community.
Yeah.
It would make sense, but again, it might
I
just
mean, it-
might just be the hoaxer doing his homework. Again.
It totally makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, Pokemon Go is still gigantic.
But that's also kind of like one of the only things that really kind of set my skepticism vibe off on this leak is so much of it makes sense.
Right.
Nintendo doesn't really do that.
That's a good point.
And so much of it is like, oh, that's a great lineup.
Right.
And I just
it's like a Nintendo fan's wet dream,
yeah, it's like a
basically.
dream Nintendo Direct for E3, and like it's
Yeah.
really going to be like, here's Animal Crossing. We might make Fire Emblem in 2020.
Here's Pikmin, finally.
Here's a 20-minute demo of that stupid No More Heroes thing,
Right.
and like it's like that's what I'm expecting. It's something
Yeah.
like that. But this is a great list.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And then Star Fox Lilac System, a.k.a. Star Fox Grand Prix, which we talked about, was it last week or the week before?
Yeah, last week. And like, what do you call this in Europe? I wonder.
Well, now there has been some new rumors about this as well, that it's actually more of like a traditional Star Fox game than people initially thought, which to me is encouraging news.
Right.
But yeah, that's the same game we
I mean, I thought that
discussed.
Star Fox would go in the vault for another decade after Zero didn't
and
pan out.
rightfully so. Didn't pan out. That's putting it pretty
Yeah.
nicely. Then the final game that was a surprise, The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening 3D. That also sent up some red flags for me.
So that's like a remake of Link's Awakening in like a Breath of the Wild style kind of thing.
I think it's for I don't know. Why would it be called?
3D?
Yeah.
Well, because Link's Awakening is a 2D game.
Yeah.
So like it's either you're talking about a 3DS version in 3D.
That's what I was thinking.
Well, that would be unusual because Nintendo hasn't really pushed the 3D thing for years.
That's why I said it sent up a red flag.
and like
Because
well,
they,
to me,
they
to-
make 3DSs that aren't even 3D anymore.
Well, right, but to me, the other thing the 3D could mean is it's a Switch version of the game that's been remade with the Breath of the Wild engine in a full polygonal version of Link's Awakening, which is one of the
That
most.
would be freaking awesome.
That would be a bombshell.
Absolutely.
Especially if it's this
They,
year.
they talk about megatons at E3. That would be a
Yeah.
freaking megaton.
Especially because Link's. I mean, I'm not as big a Link's Awakening fan as some people, but like
I am. I love it. It's probably my top 3 Zelda games.
one of my biggest surprises when I first got on the internet was how many people listed Link's Awakening as their favorite Zelda game.
Yeah.
Which I still find I think it's a good middle of the road Zelda game. I don't find it, but like I think you would make the fandom extraordinarily happy if there was just like a full-on like 3D remake for the Switch. That would be that would be a lot of people's game of the show.
I mean, look, this list would be
huge.
If this is true.
I mean, this would be like Nintendo's best lineup in years.
Maybe ever.
Yeah.
Seriously. I mean, especially if Link's Awakening 3D is a Switch game.
Link's Awakening 3D sells me on. I mean, Link's Awakening 3D would make me forgive them for a dumb Star Fox permutation and another damn Yoshi game. No problem.
So, legit or not, Matt? Here's where you get to make your choice. Do you think it's real or do you think it's fake?
I give it like a 30% chance of being real, but I really want it to be real.
Yeah. Yeah.
It seems too good.
It is. I think you're right. You know, it's the old saying, if it sounds too good to be true, it's probably not. And I think this sounds too good to be true.
Yeah. I do think it's a masterful troll.
Yeah.
if it's not
Whoever
real.
did this is really, really good. They know Nintendo really well. They know Nintendo's fans really well. They have studied what Nintendo does at E3 with exacting detail. If this ends up being fake, I hope that whoever did this comes forward so that we can all say, okay, nicely played, even though it was all fake. But it's smart. I mean, he mixes in the known with the unknown. It all makes sense in some
leaves
kind
out
of
some
way.
stuff that everybody thinks is a given.
Yeah.
Which gives that little twinge of disappointment that makes it feel genuine.
Right. It's pretty good. So, regardless, it would be nice to see all these franchises revived on Switch. And Switch is popular enough that might actually happen. Like, this may not be legit, but maybe by the end of Switch's lifespan, we'll see all this stuff coming to it eventually. Not these exact games, but those franchises kind of returning to a Nintendo console, which would be great. So, what about the chat? What do you guys think? Real or fake? What are they saying, Matt?
I don't know.
No opinion.
No real consensus. And then, like, there's people talking about, like, there's stuff in there that we know is coming.
Yeah.
Obviously, Metroid Prime and Fire Emblem, Yoshi. Just enough weird stuff mixed in. W. Matthew says it's capital F, fake. Nova Damas says fake. Super Cordon Bleu says fake. Gerzilla says fake. Brandon2149, fake. Juan X Solo, flipping fake.
Nice. Flipping fake.
So I feel like most of us think this is probably not real.
Yeah.
But it would be nice if it was.
Why can't we have nice things, Sifters? All right, let's move on. We're going to talk next about Rage 2, and we did talk about this last week. And I don't want to go back and talk about Rage 1 like we did, because we actually last week's discussion was kind of about Rage 1 and what we liked and didn't like and what we want to see change. Well, finally, Rage 2 has been unveiled, exactly what the game is. They put out a gameplay trailer this week that showed it off. An event, I mean, probably the best way I can describe it is that it's an open world Doom. They've already said no loot boxes in the game. It's so funny now how publishers have to come out as soon as they announce a game and say whether a game has loot boxes or not.
Is this the first time in gaming history where not having a thing is an important bullet point?
Is there such a thing as a not a bullet point?
Yeah.
Is that like something you can put on a box and be like, this game does not have this? Like on the back, you have pluses and you have the minus loot boxes. Look, the teaser got me kind of excited for it. The gameplay trailer, I'm really jacked up for this game now. I think it looks awesome. It came out today that they're using the Just Cause engine for the game and not id Tech.
Very interesting.
So no more mega textures.
Although the mega texture thing has pretty much been, I think the Wolfenstein games kind of nailed that down.
Yeah.
Although again, the Wolfenstein games are not doing open world stuff, so maybe that's a whole different ball game. But I think the one thing about the Just Cause engine means this game's probably pretty damn big.
Yep, it can definitely draw huge environments and still run pretty well on top of that.
I just hope that they keep the enemies are as interesting to fight as they were in the first.
Does it look? It doesn't look like Rage to me. Like to me, it's Rage in name now.
Yeah,
only
a little bit.
I mean, the art style is pretty much completely
different. Also,
different.
like, Rage is kind of generic anyway. I don't think Rage really had a very other than that one like mutant bald dude, like who also just sort of looked like the guy on the cover of the Borderlands cover with the mask off.
Yeah.
I don't feel like there was a lot, and I guess the wing blade was sort of iconic is not the word, but I would at least identify it, even though it was basically just a boomerang from the Road Warrior with another blade on it. I feel like there's a lot of room to play with what Rage sort of set up, because Rage was basically very generic, sort of post-apocalyptic wasteland sort of thing. So why not? Like, sure.
Obviously, still got a lot of vehicle stuff in it.
Yeah, which I mean, that's a good reason to use the Just Cause engine as well. There's a lot of flexibility there. Much bigger enemies, more enemies. Like, see, that's the thing is I'm a little worried about. Is like the fights in Rage 1 had to be kind of smaller scale because the enemies were so smart.
Oh, they'd destroy you if it was
Yeah.
more than a couple of them, yeah.
And this looks a little more like your standard sort of open world shooter. I'm curious if there's enough meat on this Rage bone to attract people's attention, because it could really easily feel generic. But then you wonder if there's like a thirst for this kind of thing in the wake of Fury Road.
I mean, it looks like a Mad Max. It looks like the Mad Max game that should have been made.
Probably. And then there's a little bit with where they're showing kind of the game show, like this thing here with the game show thing, which is also part of I think that was the mobile game of Rage.
Yeah.
The idea was like you're on kind of this like the Running Man sort of thing. I don't know.
I'm more. I don't know.
It's hard to say.
I'm more excited for this than I was the original Rage.
Yeah,
I think it looks far more interesting.
I mean, as someone who played just about anything with a big map and icons on it, I'm sure I'm probably in for this. Like, it's curious to try and like kind
you have like the bounding gameplay elements which weren't in the original Rage.
It's just weird to kind of think about how. I mean, I think they needed to remove it from the first Rage, especially if id wasn't going to make it. And it's maybe Bethesda needs sort of like a Fallout gone crazy action game like this. Maybe that makes sense for them, for their portfolio.
It reminds me a little bit of what Bethesda did with Prey.
Yeah.
It started Prey as one thing, and then it brought it back, and it was basically only Prey in name.
Mm-hmm.
It had some subtle elements that were similar that it kind of carried over, but for the most part,
But it didn't call it Prey 2.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. But I would also say that Rage 2 looks a little closer to Rage 1 than Prey did to what Prey originally.
Well, Prey. I mean, the last year's Prey is unidentifiable compared to the original Prey.
Right.
Not that that's a negative thing necessarily.
Right.
I see the connection here, but it's just like you wonder.
Desert
buggies, raiders.
That's about it, though.
There's probably a couple like the boomerang thing.
Yeah.
And have fun, I guess. Sure.
It looks fun. I thought that trailer was very well cut together.
Mm-hmm.
I think when you watch it over and over, like Sam just rolled it twice there, I noticed stuff the second time I watched it that I didn't notice the first time I watched it. It looks like it's pretty varied and the gameplay is different. Huge creatures to tackle. I'm always a fan of that stuff.
I did think the world they set up in Rage 1 was interesting, and they didn't really explore it much.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of world building beyond those first early scenes where like, oh, asteroid destroyed stuff. It's 100 years later. Now you're up. Come help us find water. It's like, okay. And they don't really go any further than that. But the idea of sort of exploring how this world has evolved and what it is now could be interesting if that's kind of the direction they're going to take it. Like, certainly that looks like, much more expansive than anything in the first game.
Well, also the era seems way different. Like, we just saw a guy with like a baseball cap there. I mean, the first game, that sort of fashion wasn't even... It was even a figment of the imagination in the first game.
People were dressed kind of normal in some of the...
Were they?
Yeah.
I don't remember that at all.
Like, John Goodman's character is just in like a windbreaker or something. Not everybody's wearing like crazy metal spikes and shit.
Yeah.
I mean, those guys are wearing German helmets from World War II. I don't know where they're finding this stuff. But.
Yeah. I'm excited for it. If I had to put out a top 30 most anticipated games, this would probably make the list for me. And again, I was a big fan of the first game. Not that I think this looks anything like that, though.
I mean, I recognize that one bald guy with the spiky collar. Like, that's definitely a Rage character. But
I wonder if it'll tie into the first game at all.
I'm sure it'll be in the same world.
Right, but I wonder if there'll be references back to or any of that kind of stuff.
Maybe it'll do that thing where like one of the quest lines is given to you by the main character of the first game or something. Like that kind of, that's how they bring stuff. I saw that in State of Decay 2. the annoying girl on the radio from the first game shows up to do like some guest spots on the radio in State of Decay 2, talking about how everybody, we're still out here and we're still keeping the faith and stuff. And it's just like, sometimes all you need to do is just kind of throw a bone continuity-wise to the first game, and that's good enough.
That's good enough. Yeah. So we'll be getting a lot more on Rage 2 at E3. It's one of two games that Bethesda is going to really focus on in profile. Bethesda has been saying that this will be its longest E3 press conference ever. Mm-hmm. Yet it only seems like it has 2 games to feature. So
there's got to be more in there somewhere.
Yeah, which also
means a real long feature on the Elder Scrolls card game.
Right, or maybe games like Rage 2 are really going to get a massive blowout.
It could be.
So I think we'll know a lot more after E3. But I
still think
excited.
Bethesda, like their internal studio, I think Bethesda Game Studios has something. They got to have something.
They have to, right?
You'd think.
Right?
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 At some point, they need income, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And everything else they're publishing is just sort of not moving the needle.
I mean, they have plenty of money, and they're not a publicly held company, so they don't have to answer to shareholders. As long as they have to pay everyone's salaries, they can do whatever the hell they want.
True, and I'm sure those Nintendo games are helping. That's got to be a lucrative deal.
You sell 700,000-800,000 copies.
Well, I don't think it's the sales that are doing it.
You think?
I think Nintendo's paying them to put
probably
because that's how you do that.
That's how it works. Yeah.
That's how Sony took
and
the industry
smart.
over.
I mean, if I were Nintendo, that's one of the publishers I absolutely would have went after to do that stuff. So
yeah.
And
then you go after more.
And then ultimately you sell 1 million copies. It all works out pretty well in the end anyway. So we'll see. It'll be interesting to see if that list earlier of leaks was accurate, if we end up seeing Fallout 3 for Switch at Nintendo, or we see it at Bethesda as well. Because it could be a case where Bethesda breaks that before the Direct even comes out.
Yeah.
Because Bethesda is one of the earlier press conferences they were
And Fallout 3 would be interesting too, because there is no Fallout 3 for PS4 and Xbox One unless there's a backwards compatible on Xbox One. I can't remember.
Might be.
Probably is.
I don't think I've seen it.
I can't remember. But if they do a little tweaking, a little
Generation
upgrading,
8 exclusive.
right? Well, no, do a little tweaking, a little upgrading, like make it look a little better. Like here's Fallout 3 for here's our remastered
Fallout 3 should run okay on Switch.
I would hope.
Yeah.
Fallout 3 should run on a toaster. Yeah. Fallout 3 should run on my phone.
on your refrigerator.
Yeah, it's entirely plausible.
Yeah. I don't know if you watch Silicon Valley or not, but they show how even refrigerators in this day and age have like CPUs powerful enough to do like crazy stuff, especially if you chain them all together in like a cloud or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Well, you can run Doom on just about anything. You can run Doom on microwaves now.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. All right, let's move on. We're going to talk next about a game. This is one of those smaller games we want to bring your attention to. If you're on SIFTD, you may have seen some reviews for this going up. It has been scoring sky high. And I texted Matt today. I'm like, hey, what have you been playing? I was pleasantly surprised that he has been playing Forgotton Anne. And maybe you can tell me why they've misspelled Forgotten in the title.
No, I can't. I have no idea.
I have no idea either.
In the logo, when the title pops up, the O is shaped, I believe, like the little device she has on her hand. I don't know if that matters or not, but I'm not.
They could have used the first O for that, though.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's a significance to it. I don't know what it is yet because I'm not done with it.
So Forgotton Anne is and look, I haven't played it, but I'm assuming it is a side-scrolling puzzle platform adventure.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah. Similar shades of Prince of Persia.
Really?
I would say, in terms of like the jumping.
The old school Prince of Persia.
Yeah. And, I mean, not as like you're not going to die by falling off a ledge, but like right there. But it reminds me of them. It's that kind of thing. The animation is sort of on par. There's no combat so far. It's all puzzle solving.
What's the story?
So, still piecing some of that together. I'm only like 2 hours in.
Okay.
So it begins. So the game's all hand animated. This is good and bad in some ways. You can see it looks beautiful in the gameplay. The actual story, like cinematics, are a little rougher. But it starts with it's showing just people in a city, like people on cell phones crossing the street, cars honking, people doing all technical things, and it shows a guy getting ready to go to work, and he's putting his socks on, and he goes to find his other sock, and he can't find it. It's under the bed. It's kind of a POV shot from under the bed with the sock in the foreground, and he just goes whatever, and he gets up and leaves, and suddenly the sock gets sucked through a portal and ends up in this world where this world that she's in is where all the lost objects go.
So all my socks are
all
there
your
somewhere.
lost socks, all this, anything that it seems to be any object that people have forgotten about, and when they end up there, they become sentient.
I probably have a few gloves there too. I'm guessing.
So and so you see that you follow this sock, and he ends up.
You actually follow a sock.
Yeah, and the sock, because as soon as the sock goes to the portal, suddenly it's falling into this lake, and it starts to scream.
Well, that's funny.
So you're like, oh, okay.
Use the sock as like the example.
And so you follow the sock, and it ends up in this like kind of like line where this like it's like a department store dummy like is sorting all the various objects into different lines and different places, and it's like, okay, over here, get your sticker. You're going to be at the factory. You're going to be over here. You can find a job over here. Da, da. And so and then it cuts to these other objects, like basically like blow up this building. And you cut to Anne waking up in her bed in this tower, and you slowly piece together basically. So she is called the Enforcer.
Okay.
She is the adopted daughter, it seems, of Master. I can never remember his name. He's this old man who's like kind of the dictator of the whole place, and his name is Master Bronca or Bronco. I don't know. Blongo. I can't remember. And so she is kind of the Gestapo for this world. So that thing on her arm, on her hand, absorbs what's called anima. Anima is the power that powers everything. Anima is also the life force of the inanimate objects here.
Okay.
If she wants to,
she just use anima
to animate that thing. She can use the thing on her hand to kill these objects and suck the life out of them.
So is she the bad guy?
You don't know yet.
And
the thing is, as you talk to these guys, you can basically play it either as there's dialogue choices, and you can basically play it either as a hard ass, like, do what I say, I am in charge, or you can play it more empathetic.
Huh.
And like the first encounter with there's a rebel faction that like the guerrilla group like blew up this thing and they're trying to sabotage. So you and the old man there, the master guy. They're building this bridge that's going to take them back to what's called the ether, which is their real world. So they're going to be able to go back home. And
so all the socks will reappear in people's drawers.
Right. So the idea, and so they rule this world. So like the people, the objects, the inanimate objects, like they all wear these stickers that say that they have this job or whatever job, and some of them have been chosen to come back, and some of them have not. And if they misbehave, they'll get booted off the train. And there's ones that don't want to come back because they age and turn into crystal. And like at one point you meet this old steamer trunk like on the train, and he's like got a really old man voice, and she's like, I'm sorry, I gotta look inside you because we're in a crisis right now. And he opens up and it's just all these crystals, and she's like, it's all his friends that he came there with that had crystallized, because when you die of old age as an inanimate object, a Forgotton, I think they call them, a Forgotton or something like that, and they crystallize. And so this old chest is walking around with his friend's corpses inside him.
Oh God!
And she's like, I'll make sure you get like a ticket to go on the bridge to go home. And he's like, oh, my owner's long dead. I'm just gonna stay here and die. And so so that's like her friend.
This game is crazy.
That's her friend, the lamp, that runs this outpost. And like you can choose to either like tell your master father guy like that it was her fault that this happened, or defend her. And like the first early on, like a rebel scarf breaks into your house, and you're not sure it's a rebel or not. And basically, in the end, like I didn't believe him, and I killed him. Like I sucked the life out of him. But it's like it pops up a thing that says this could have gone differently. So you can play it as like you can murder anything like in the game. Like you can just start, because you need the anima in your thing to solve the puzzles.
Gotcha.
And the other thing you have is these mechanical wings, which let you super jump and jump really far. And if you don't have the anima in your hand device, you can't use them, which means so basically part of the puzzle thing is running around finding sources of this stuff to absorb, so you can power things or jump across it. But you can also just kill things and take it.
Right. So there's a moral side of it where you can take the easy way out and
kill. I haven't been doing that because it's horribly sad. So it's interesting. Like it's got. So you can see here she's doing the super jump stuff.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of platforming like this. It reminds me a little of kind of a flashback Prince of Persia kind of thing.
It's automatic though, right?
No, it's all controlled.
You're actually controlling the jumps?
Like, I mean, the jump with the wings is a preset arc, but you have to be moving forward and you have to time it properly. And then also you can do it while you're sprinting, so that changes if you're jumping off things like that. And then most of the puzzles seem to be about taking power from this and putting it over here and moving the power thing so the power goes over here instead, and then activating that and then going back. It's fairly simple sort of switch and circuit puzzles so far. But it's getting more and more complex. The first mildly complex thing they throw at you is a time-sensitive train puzzle. But the world is very compelling. Like it reminds me. It's got a little bit of Studio Ghibli to it.
I love the animation in the game.
But it also reminds me of the Brave Little Toaster. If anybody has seen that one, not just in the sense that it's inanimate objects talking,
alive,
but just the darkness of it and sort of the undercurrent of like these things are owned, and some of them don't want to be, and some of them desperately want to be, and they can be destroyed at any moment. And the humans in this don't really mourn them, like they, like the master.
Well, they're inanimate objects,
but they're also sentient creatures in this, and she's friends with that lamp,
right,
and the master even says like, don't let this get in the way because they are not real things.
Right.
They are not people. They're things, and it's like, well, what's the line there?
Right.
And like clearly these objects have their own lives in this world, and they and some of them desperately want to get back to. Like there's a thing where like that shoe actually is basically desperately trying to fix this pipe and can't because that's not the problem. But like he says, like he's like, we have to go back. I can't wait to go back and feel a foot inside me again. And it's just like, man, this is freaking weird.
Wow.
And
well, imagine if at the end of the game you're playing kind of the passive role, like you have the whole, and then it ends up just totally burning you.
Yeah, I don't know. Like that's one of the things I like about this is I have no idea where this game is going.
Yeah, I can see why.
It's a very original world that seems to be kind of constructed out of about 4 or 5 different like dark animated children's movies from the late 70s and early 80s, which is exactly my
right in your wheelhouse.
It's right in it's that the tone is right there with like get ready to Google, people. It's right there with The Secret of Nim and The Brave Little Toaster and The Mouse and His Child, Hugo the Hippo. There was this period in the late 70s where children's animated films that weren't from Disney were kind of like
Ricky Tikki Tavi.
Ricky Tikki Tavi. They had this kind of darker substance to them, and some of them really felt like disturbingly weird. And like, I mean, I watched some of the stuff.
Watership Down.
Watership Down's a good one. Plague Dogs is not really for children, but Watership Down, it was bunnies, and people showed kids that all the time, and there's some really violent stuff.
There's some dark stuff in that. Yeah.
So I feel like it comes out of that that pedigree to some degree, and I love that.
Yeah.
The animation in the full animated cutscenes is a little rough, but the animation in the actual game is gorgeous.
Yeah, it's amazing.
The voice acting's very good. The puzzles are gentle but firm. And maneuvering around the world is really cool. Like you run back and forth, but you also go up and down the stairs, and some of the puzzles are like 3D mazes in a 2D space. You have to go up the stairs into this building and over here and then forward down these stairs and past this place. And like navigating the world is like actually really interesting, even though it's just like side to side and up and down. And like you'll meet all these characters, like what these objects are, and like there's a gun that is the sheriff, the marshal guy, course. And like you like up there you've got like a welding torch that's just sort of hanging from a string and like welding things as he. It's strangely comic and whimsical, but it also has this really dark undercurrent, and it also keeps reminding me of not gameplay wise, but it reminds me of that game that never came to pass, City of Metronome.
Oh yeah.
Remember that? That was like one of those like hidden gems things people kept talking about from E3 for a couple of years, and then it just vanished, and that company did something else, I think.
Yeah. How much was it?
I think it was 20. I think it was
a little steep, maybe.
I don't feel. I mean, I think it was $17 on Steam. It was like the
launch discount.
10% launch discount or something. But it's also on Xbox and PS4. I think they're full price. It's full price there.
$60?
No, like $19.90. It's not. It doesn't have.
It
doesn't have the 10% discount on that.
Right.
But I think I like these kind of games, and I like the art style and the tone. I mean, there's nothing else like it. I have zero regrets even at this point. I'm not remotely done with it, but even at this point,
Already
I
you
have
feel like
no
you got
regrets
your
for
money's
paying
worth.
$20 for it.
That's great.
No question. I can see why it's getting such high reviews. It's unique. It has unique ideas. The gameplay is a well-worn sort of style, but it's from a couple of different genres, and it all comes together really well. So far, it's pulling off everything it accomplishes. If the ending isn't a complete train wreck, this is arguably, like, if not game of the year question, at the very least, like, I don't know if this counts as an indie game because Square published it.
Yeah, well, no, it is an indie game because Square published it, but it published it under its indie imprint.
Okay, yeah, Square Collective, or
Right,
whatever that is.
yeah.
Okay, so put it this way: at the end of the year, when we do our Game of the Year episode, the gauntlet is thrown for best indie game
Interesting.
so far. I mean, there's
Wow.
always a chance for this thing to, come
Yeah.
apart at the seams
Yeah.
as we move forward. But so far, I am super down with Forgotton Anne.
Well, I think I'm going to buy it just so I can find the car keys I lost back in 1993.
Also, that's the other. So everything that gets lost in this is like, it's all like it's like animate, and so like early on, I'm like, well, wait, like she has a lamp on her desk. Where'd she get? What's that? She killed it. Like it must. you have to assume that any equipment is just like an object that because if an object disobeys or screws up, they send it to the factory, or she just like sucks the light. That's how you. At one point, you can interrogate one of the objects by threatening to suck the life out of it. And it turned out, I'm not sure because I killed him because at some point he finally confessed. And I don't know if I let go of the button if he would have lived, but he died.
Yeah.
He confessed before he died, but he did die.
Yeah, wow.
And I don't know if there's going to be consequences to all that later, probably, or something like that. But like, I'm fascinated. Like, I'm fascinated by it.
After talking with you about it and watching all the B-roll, I'm in. I will go and pick this one up. Hopefully some sifters watching this will follow suit.
I mean, I picked it up mainly because I'm like, oh, I like that art. I like the way it looks.
Yeah.
But like, the art is like third or fourth thing I like the best about this game so far.
There you go. Hopefully we just turned you on to a game you guys might like. Got to move on. We're going to talk next about something that may change everything for Switch. I hinted at this earlier. We were talking about Fallout 4 never playable on Switch. Well, something happened over the last couple of days that may change all of that. Capcom is bringing Resident Evil 7 to the Switch, but the catch is it's a cloud-powered game. It's a streaming game. But does it matter?
Yes.
In what way?
What do you mean? Does it matter?
Does it matter that it's streaming instead of being rendered in real time by Switch?
I think so.
I mean, if it works, obviously, it'll matter if the stream if it sucks and it doesn't.
Well, I think it matters in the sense that it kind of torpedoes the portability idea.
Yeah, because you need to be near Wi-Fi.
Yeah, you can't. I'm sure people have been asking for Resident Evil 7 on the Switch, but I don't think they meant like, please give me Resident Evil 7 on the Switch, but don't let me leave my Wi-Fi hotspot. Like it's like one thing for like yes, you can't. The same deal applies to something like Splatoon 2, but Splatoon 2 is a multiplayer game that you kind of accept that from, whereas Resident Evil 7 is an entirely single-player game.
It is.
That like isn't really what you don't have that understanding with it, and on top of that, like you get the whole subscription service idea, and it also means that here's something you can spend money to play on the system that like one day will not be yours to play anymore. Like you won't be able to keep it and download it or whatever.
Not announced for the U.S. yet, by the way.
No, only in Japan. And in Japan, it makes a little more sense because their infrastructure is much more geared to support something like this. Whereas, like in America, I feel like our speeds are much more variable, and I've not had very good experiences with streaming games.
Me either.
PlayStation Now is borderline non-functional in a lot of games for me.
Depending on what genre, it is absolutely non-functional.
And I haven't played Resident Evil 7. I don't know what kind of split-second reflexes it requires.
No, it's not that bad.
It kind of feels like Capcom throwing in the towel. It's like, we can't get this to work on this system. So here, how about this? Especially on a system. Obviously, they're different games, different developers. It's not an apples to apples comparison. But the thing runs Doom.
Yeah.
Why can't it run this VR game?
I mean, Doom doesn't look like Doom. I mean, they obviously the frame rate's cut in half and the
Right.
details
Well,
cut
then
back.
do that with this.
But here's the thing about Resident Evil 7 is that it's not really all that good looking of a game in the first place.
No.
You can tell it was built so it could run on PlayStation VR. It held it back, I think, a great deal. Still looks good.
Which I think is why a lot of people were kind of assuming there was a Switch version possibly in the cards, because
it does seem like it might be possible for it to run on Switch.
yeah, maybe you're making concessions. Maybe it runs at a really low resolution, even in handheld mode. But this is a weird stopgap maneuver that.
But it may not be a stopgap. It may be the gap filler, like the permanent gap filler, because there's no way Switch can run most PlayStation 4 and Xbox One games. But now, all of a sudden, it might be possible.
But it doesn't matter, because you can't. It's not portable anymore.
But you
That's
yourself say you don't care about the portability.
Right, and go look at the layer of dust on my controller. Like, I don't use the system, but there are people who use it daily, but they use every single time I see someone talking about how often they use their Switch, they're talking about using it on the go. They're talking about having it portable.
Whatever, yeah.
And if you take that away, I don't see how this does them any good.
I think there's a lot of Switch owners that would be more than happy to be able to play all the third-party games for PS4 and Xbox One only on their TV. I think most Switch owners are absolutely fine with this. If it's this or not being able to play those games at all, they're going to take this. Now, look, we're extrapolating this out.
I don't think that's necessarily
true.
true.
There's
from
no
what I've
evidence that
seen.
any other publisher is planning on doing this.
Or that this is even coming here.
Right.
Because this is a much more viable solution in Japan. But PlayStation Now hasn't taken off either for the exact same reason. It just doesn't work properly, especially if you don't have a wired connection. And I don't know about anybody else. The Wi-Fi on my Switch is garbage. Like, it doesn't even work in the other room.
Well, you can wire your Switch, though.
Yeah,
and
but
since
you
you're
need
only going to be
enough-
playing it on a TV, you're not going to take
Right,
it
but
portable.
what I'm saying is I'm not typical of that. What I want doesn't matter here. I am like 6% of the Switch audience. Everybody else uses it as a portable system for the most part. And it takes 3 times as long to download the same amount of information out here in the main Wi-Fi area as it does for the other systems.
Yeah.
Like, it's really slow, and I don't know if that's like universal or just because that's how our infrastructure works here in America. Whatever. I don't see this as being a viable solution for the way most people seem to use their Switch. I think it's a stopgap measure that is better than nothing, for sure. But you've got the problem of, I've already been watching people complain about it on Twitter and talk about it on Twitter and various forums and such. And you've got camps where people are like, yeah, it's better than nothing. But you've got people that just don't want to pay a subscription fee for something they don't own, which I understand. It's also kind of my issue with PlayStation Now.
Yeah.
People who are like, I play my Switch on the train. And if I can't play it on the train, I don't care. And I certainly don't trust the Wi-Fi on the train to be able to stream something like that properly. It doesn't.
I think that camp of people are the people who are not hardcore Nintendo fans that bought a Switch. I think hardcore Nintendo fans are playing their Switch docked. They're playing it in the car.
No.
Yeah.
Read hardcore Nintendo fan forums for this thing. They all play it handheld. It's all handheld. The point is handheld. I have suggested in some of those threads and seen people suggest in those threads of like, hey, I would buy like a Switch Pro, like a Switch that's just a console, does not have the handheld thing. It's more powerful. It hooks to the TV. It never comes out of it. It's a dock with a Switch welded into it with more power, and it runs things better. And people will rip your head off.
But don't you think that that's just Nintendo fans defending Nintendo?
No, I think it's Nintendo fans.
I absolutely think
it is, but the point is...
I think it's them just saying Nintendo can do no wrong, and Nintendo wanted this to be a hybrid system, and I'm telling you that I use it as a hybrid system.
But they've also switched to the narrative that it's a handheld system, because that's the only way you get away with something this weak.
Yeah.
And that's how you end up
but
here.
I think
you're not...
ultimately they play, if they're at home, they play it docked, and when they're on the road, they play it as a handheld.
They don't.
Why would they do that, though? That's so dumb.
I don't know. I have that same question, but man, all I can go by is what these people say online, and they say they play it handheld, even when they're home.
That's insane.
I mean, some of it is because, roommates share televisions or
Right.
families share televisions, and at least with the Switch, they never have to, they can play it whenever they want, so they just
Right.
play it like that. Or they prefer to wear the headphones, or they think it looks better on the handheld screen because it's smaller, the resolution problems aren't as obvious, and sometimes they run at a better frame rate. It all depends. Or they prefer to just have it there, but almost semi-universally, I mean, like 70-80% of the people I see just say, I always play in handheld. All I do is play at handheld.
That's insane.
I agree, but my point is not that that's what I want to do with it. My point, I mean, if I were interested in the streaming idea, that would solve my issue completely because I never take it out of the dock. It would be fine. I could wire it up, and that would be the end of it. But that's not what the majority of Switch users seem to use their Switch for.
I still think, though, if you start putting out big third-party games on Switch and you can only stream them, I think they will absolutely dock that console and play those games.
I feel
They've been envious of these games for
Sort
literally 3 generations.
Yeah, but never underestimate the barrier of that subscription fee. If you don't,
How much is the subscription fee in
Japan? I think
Japan?
it was 20 something for
a month.
months. I don't remember what it was.
That's insane.
It was a high price.
If it was
higher than
$5 a month.
I can't remember. I saw the $20 for something. I can't remember what span of time it was.
Is this?
But what I'm saying is, the subscription fee for something you don't own, and will eventually go away when this Switch isn't going to last forever. PlayStation Now is going to last forever, and eventually that's going to go away. And all these games you played or you paid this money for is going to vanish like that. And there's people, especially Nintendo. One of the reasons people like Nintendo stuff is Nintendo puts out physical versions of things. They put out hardware. Nintendo's some of the last consoles where you really feel like you still own the products you buy. And
Except you have to buy them 3 times over.
Well, yeah.
I mean, in all honesty, I say that the opposite. I feel like with Nintendo, I don't own something because even if I own it now, in 4 years, I don't own it anymore.
Right, but you see that. That's not the perception of the fans. The fans want that physical card. They don't want to download. So I can't blame them for not wanting to download stuff because they have to buy a much bigger SD card if they do that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, streaming solves that problem too.
It does, but
is this a proprietary Capcom thing?
I have no idea. I don't know if anybody has any
Because
idea.
if Nintendo's involved with it, that changes everything. If Nintendo is the one working on this service, then I have pretty good hopes that it might end up coming to the U.S.
I haven't seen anything one way or the other on that. I feel like if Nintendo were working with that, we would not know about this yet.
Yeah.
Because that would seem like something they would be keeping to themselves.
Seems like something they'd announce at E3.
Yeah, this might just be Capcom going rogue.
That's what it sounds like to me.
So,
because if Nintendo was working on it, it would hold it. It would announce it at one of its own on its own direct or at E3.
Although to be fair, it's not the only Switch game doing this.
Oh, there's Phantasy Star
Online 2 does this too.
Yeah.
Although again, a game that with the pre-existing understanding that you require an online connection to play this thing.
Yeah.
Resident Evil 7 does not have that. Resident Evil 7 is a single-player game.
Yeah.
And I understand that this kind of streaming idea, it's not new. It comes from PlayStation Now and Gaikai.
Imagine
and all
playing
that stuff.
an MMO that already you need part of your bandwidth to play the game streaming.
Yeah.
That seems crazy. But it is Japan.
Yeah.
I don't think that would ever work here.
Probably not. It's just too varied, especially when you're going to run into people that have DSL and don't understand why it's not working properly.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just...
It's a crack. The door was cracked open. Whereas before, it was firmly slammed shut as far as being able to play and access these games on Switch.
I mean,
So I think it's a start. It's a glimmer of hope.
Well, they got to come up with something, obviously. I don't think this solves the problem to any great degree for the majority of the Switch audience.
Yeah.
Does that matter? I don't know. It's probably just mostly free money for them if they're running stuff on a server remotely and streaming it to a Switch. It's not a big expense. But, I don't think this is what Switch owners had in mind when they were asking for Resident Evil 7.
Yeah. I'm surprised that Capcom didn't go with Monster Hunter World.
Well, I feel like
RE7.
that's going to be even more complex. Also, I feel like...
But they're doing PSO2.
True.
It's the same thing. It's an
well,
MMO.
that's not Capcom, and B,
Right.
PSO2 doesn't look like Monster Hunter World. There's a lot less happening there. And 3, Monster Hunter World, I think, is just... It's in Japan, it's more of a local play thing, and the Switch, like the 3DS version and stuff, and PSP and stuff. And the online is a factor, especially Monster Hunter World.
Yeah.
But I think the in-person play is still a thing over there, and that's who they're focusing on, and that's why Monster Hunter Generations, or that's what it is, an updated version of Generations. Like that's where you're going to get a physical version of that. Yep. I think that makes more sense. I think physical versions of anything makes more sense. If you can't run it on the system,
I still buy all my games physical.
Yeah,
I don't buy any digital.
I don't buy everything digital, but I
get digital when publishers and PR send me stuff, but I never buy anything digital.
I buy online stuff digital.
I'm holding on.
Because look, I bought Destiny 2.
I'm one of the last.
I bought Destiny 2 digital because physical version of that game does me no good whatsoever.
Right. Yeah, it actually is more inconvenient to have the physical.
I have to put the disc in every time, and when that game shuts down, I have a coaster.
Yeah.
It's no point.
It's true.
But if it's a God of War, I bought a physical copy of that because that's a totally offline game that will always be good. I can always play it. You want a copy. You want to own that.
Yep.
I've tried to play the kind of PlayStation Now stuff and the streaming stuff, and I just find it too laggy.
I agree. Some games work.
Some games, like the Uncharted games, mostly work.
Don't. Yeah. Anything that requires split-second timing, forget.
Yeah, the Arkham games don't work because the counter system is too fast.
Yeah. A fighting game, something like that, forget it.
No.
A first-person shooter, forget it.
So
a single-player first-person shooter, maybe. Definitely not competitive.
Resident Evil 7 could work.
Yeah, it could definitely work. It's a pretty slow-moving game.
I just feel like this is outside of the wheelhouse of what the Switch is for to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And, if I wasn't so skeptical of the streaming thing, it would be a solution to me. If, again, there was ever anything on the Switch that I'd need to play that wasn't physically on the Switch, which I feel like that's not a possibility.
Yeah.
I feel like this is a solution for other games from third parties that can't run on the Switch, so this is how we're going to get it on there. Whereas, I would just buy it on a platform that it can run on.
Well, right. We have all the consoles, and so it doesn't matter that much.
I can't see, Nintendo using this for, the next Zelda.
Oh, no. No. Definitely not.
But
to get these third-party games on its platform that have no chance of running on its hardware.
I don't think it's better, like you say, better than nothing, but I don't think it's going to really make a huge dent. And it's not, people want to take something with them. They want to play it whenever they want on the go, and single player stuff at least. And being tethered to a Wi-Fi hotspot just to play a single player survival horror game is weird. And I think you're going to see people also. I've already seen people comparing it to you've got Doom on there, you've got Outlast 2 on there. And they all look pretty much okay, not great, but they look okay. Why can't you cram Resident Evil 7 in there? It feels like an experiment to see if people will bite, and I don't really feel like people will bite.
It's Japan.
Yeah, I don't know what Japan's opinions on this kind of streaming thing are. It probably works better there.
I'm actually kind of surprised that Nintendo did not build in cellular into Switch. At least kind of like what they do with iPads, where they offer
the
a cellular version and just a Wi-Fi version.
Well,
at least in Japan, I'm
E3
surprised.
is not over yet.
That's true. It hasn't even started yet. All right.
That feels like it might be a plausible thing to release in Japan. I don't think that would be a big seller here.
No.
Nobody wants a contract with their game system.
Although my wife, we just got a new iPad for Christmas, and she wanted the cellular version. Because we use it when we go on trips or whatever for
makes sense.
Whatever. It's like go to Vegas and you want to change hotel or whatever.
My iPad is for reading comic books.
Yeah.
So the only online connection is to comics. I need is to Marvel Unlimited and Comixology.
That's the beauty of technology. Everyone uses it for something different. And I think the more options you give as far as connectivity, the more latitude you have in how you use that device. And therefore, it will appeal to a wider group of people. So we'll see, but it's time to move on to our last topic of today's episode. We're going to talk about undoubtedly the biggest story of the week, whether you like it or not, and that is that, seriously though, that is that Call of Duty Black Ops 4 was unveiled this week. Initial impressions overall, Matt. Did you watch the live stream and everything?
No.
Okay. Watch the trailers?
Some of the trailers.
Okay.
I can't possibly care less about this game.
Yeah.
Once you remove that single player campaign, you've removed every possibility of me ever playing it.
You're not a battle royale guy either, right?
I like the idea. I'm not going to pay $60 to play a Call of Duty version of it.
Yeah.
Certainly if there's no campaign to keep me busy in the meantime. And I don't even like Black Ops to begin with. So
Boy.
It's like strike 4 at that point. I mean, I am so not on board with this game, I can't even tell you.
Well, first of all, the rumors of no campaign ended up being 100% true. Yeah. There is no campaign in the game.
Well done, Rumor Squad.
Yeah, Treyarch, again, yet another leak. That almost all leaks now are true. For whatever reason, it seems like 90% of them
What's
are
going to be left
legit.
for E3?
Yeah, and
Is there anything we don't know?
Starting to wonder.
I mean, we got like what, 3 weeks left? Like, is there going to be anything left
there
to
will
know?
Be. There will be. You got to believe in the magic of E3, Kyle.
Sony's going to keep some secrets. Sony usually keeps some secrets.
So while there is no campaign in Black Ops 4, Treyarch is going to extreme lengths to try to make people believe that they've baked some semblance of narrative into the other modes of the game. Even saying that in multiplayer, which is what we're seeing right now, has story built into it. But I've not seen that.
That's what Titanfall 1 said, too.
Yeah. I think Titanfall 1 goes closer to that ideal than this does. Best I can tell, the multiplayer in Black Ops 4 is Overwatch. I mean, they worked with the Overwatch team on this game.
All right, because they are the same company.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the PC version is going to be on Battle.net, which is a big deal for...
I think that's just going forward. That's how Activision is going to roll.
Absolutely, and it should. I mean, you
they
have this
it,
great
but, yeah.
service. Why not put all your games on it? So it's going to be on Battle.net. But really, the change, and I wasn't a big fan of this in the last Black Ops, is the classes. Like, they're trying to create characters out of soldiers, essentially, and it doesn't work. That's why Overwatch does work. Is because they don't have. I mean, they have one. They have like the stereotypical soldier dude.
And
almost is like a joke, right?
Yeah.
It's like
that's why he's an old man,
right?
Because
exactly.
Call of Duty is an old man's game,
right? They're like, this is like our nod to all the other shooters that this isn't, and trying to. It's like you can put a hat on anybody you want. It's still that same person with a hat on, and that's pretty much what they're doing with Black Ops 4. You cannot create a character-driven, character-based shooter out of a military shooter. It just does not work. As far as like, they're like, oh, boots on the ground. It is boots on the ground. There's no wall running like they had in Black Ops 3. Although Black Ops 3 was pretty tame. It had the slide, which is still in here, by the way. The slide's still in the game. And they had wall running. And that was pretty much it. Like, I don't know why you would take away the wall running. It's basically the same universe, same characters as Black Ops 3. But now all of a sudden they've just lost the ability to run on walls. Like I don't know. I feel like here's the thing with this entire game for me is that Treyarch used to be the leader. It used to come up with the ideas that other shooters would steal and permutate on and change it and bend it to their own needs. Black Ops 4 is just like, hey, what's everybody else doing? That's not.
This game seems like a giant reaction.
It really is. And that is not what Black Ops has ever been. I mean, you say you hate Black Ops. Black Ops is my favorite Call of Duty franchise.
I hate Black Ops.
I've enjoyed the campaign the most in Black Ops. I've enjoyed the multiplayer the most in Black Ops. And that's because generally they're the ones blazing the trail for this franchise. Now this game they should just call this like Call of Duty Me Too. Like, that's pretty much what you're getting here. You're getting
Black Ops.
Black Ops.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. I mean,
to me, like, the exciting thing this week was the announcement, the supposed leak of one of the voice actors leaking that Modern Warfare 4 is next year's game, and it does have a campaign.
Right.
And it's by Infinity Ward, and a bunch of Respawn people have gone back to Infinity Ward.
What happened with that?
I don't know. When you get bought by EA, you start to get worried, I guess.
That's crazy.
You're waiting for to be taken out back behind the shed, I guess.
Perhaps.
But you bring back get back the old band together a little bit. Give me a Modern Warfare that matches up to 2. Like, I'm more on board for that.
But look, you have a multiplayer that's basically completely aping or trying to ape Overwatch as best it can. They're taking the Battle Royale mode.
Yep.
The only thing that's left that's unique at this point is the Zombies mode. And to Treyarch's credit, the Zombies mode is getting blown out, bigger than it ever has been. So there's going to be 3 chapters of Zombies on day 1. Usually you get 1 chapter, and then the rest get dripped out as DLC over like the next year or whatever.
You got to put something in there to make up for no campaign. So.
I mean, that seems to be how they're trying to compensate.
If you want to charge the same price, like that's
right. That seems to be how they're trying to compensate. They're like, okay, there's no narrative in a traditional sense. Well, let's just beef up our zombies in one way or another. I read an interview with a couple guys from Treyarch, and they seemed, the interviewer tried to get them to say, like, this is Like, you couldn't get the campaign where you wanted it, so you bailed on it and decided to boost up zombies. And Treyarch would not budge. Treyarch says, from the very beginning, no plans to have a campaign. There isn't some top secret campaign for Black Ops 4 floating out there that's going to be uncovered one day or whatever. This is the game that we meant to build from the beginning. I have huge problems believing that, especially when you think about they started building this game 3 years ago. Then you look at the elements that are actually in it, which a battle royale mode. There's too much evidence pointing to they got neck deep in the game, started seeing where shooters were going. Because you got to remember, all this stuff has happened since Black Ops 3 came out. The rise and domination of Overwatch.
What was the last
The
Treyarch
rise
one?
and domination of Battle Royale. All that's happened since Black Ops 3 came out.
What was the last Treyarch one?
Black Ops 3.
Black Ops 3?
Yeah. All this stuff has happened.
That was 3 years ago?
Yeah. All this stuff's happened since then. And there's no way. And look, I love Mark Lamia. He's a good dude. Usually a straight shooter. But there's no way he's going to convince me that this was the plan all along. You can't have great campaigns for 3 games and then just on the 4th one be like, we're not doing that anymore. You decide we're not doing that anymore when good reason presents itself as to why you should not do it anymore.
Well, also there was a whole thing about like, oh, well, this frees up resources and money to do like the better multiplayer thing. I'm like, I don't believe for 1 second that a problem any Call of Duty game has ever had is we don't have enough money.
Yeah.
Like,
no, that's
if you needed more money to get a campaign in this game, I feel like you
would have had it. You'd have had the money, and the campaign would be there. I don't know. The multiplayer, they keep trying to convince people that it's so different. You just watched 10 minutes of it being played. Did you see anything different about that multiplayer?
It seems slower. Like, it didn't seem quite as, like
Yeah,
breakneck.
I will say this. When I was playing Black Ops 3, my wife would watch me play it on the TV, and she'd be like, you're making me sick. Because it was just so fast and so quick. And they say they're still going for 60 frames per second, which Treyarch typically does hit.
Oh, yeah. But I just mean the pace of the actual game. Like,
How fast
the
you can
speed at
run
which they were moving seems slower.
It's still pretty fast. But I don't know. I don't see any changes in this multiplayer. You can fiddle with modes all you want, and they do have
what's the thing
a
where,
mode just like Overwatch where you have a moving point and that you have to defend or attack.
What's the thing of like where the health doesn't regenerate?
Oh, yeah. That's probably the biggest change, is that you don't have rebounding health. And that is a big change. But
I mean, that's like the Call of Duty basics.
it really is. Yeah, that is a big change. That will alter. I think that's a change for the better, in all honesty. Because what rebounding health meters does is it makes you fight and then run away and hide. And that, to me, that's never a good thing to want to have in your game. You should try to find workarounds for that. I'm sure.
I mean, theoretically, this could lead to a more tactical game.
Yeah, it could absolutely.
Sort of similar to how what was the mode in the other older games where like it was like basically one shot, one kill.
I mean, Golden Gun from GoldenEye.
No, I mean like in Modern Warfare, and there was like the mode where like, there was the normal mode and there was the mode
hardcore.
Hardcore.
Yeah.
It was you made it a little more careful until people learned exactly where everything happened in the map. You just threw grenades over houses to hit
as soon as they spawn. Yeah. But I would say this. I think it might impart a little more skill-based success into it, getting rid of the rebounding health meter. But, once you got good at using that, like, you could manage that as well and be strategic with it. So I don't know how much big of a change it is, but, like, again, they copied Overwatch. They've had hardpoint all along. They haven't had the moving hardpoint, which is obviously Overwatch's signature mode.
Are they pushing an esports angle on this?
Oh, of course. I will say this for Call of Duty. It's been pushing the esports angle way longer than any other shooter. I mean, I don't know if you remember or not, but like...
So maybe Counter-Strike.
Oh, yeah. Well, Counter-Strike didn't really push esports on its own.
It just sort of evolved.
It became esports. But they've been building in esports components into Call of Duty for a long time. They have like where you go and you play like 5 or 6 matches, and then it ranks you and qualify, and then you go and then you try to qualify, and then you start climbing up the ladder in the Call of Duty League. It's been baked into the game for, I guess, 3 years now, 4 years maybe, something like that. So they've been pushing it for a while. But I don't know. I look at the changes that have been made to this, and they're trying to say, well, these are the things we decided to focus on instead of having a campaign, and does it feel like it's worth it to me? No. Am I a huge campaign guy in Call of Duty anymore? No, but I still played it and enjoyed it, and I particularly enjoyed Treyarch's. So I don't know. I mean, I'll play it,
Oh, this one's all you.
Oh, well, obviously I'll play it. I play every shooter pretty much, but it looks like another Call of Duty where I play it for a month or two and then I never go back to it. I never used to be that way with this franchise. It used to be a game that I played all year long. When there were lulls and there was nothing coming out, I just played more Call of Duty multiplayer. I have not been that way for years now, and to me, this game is not going to change it. Now, let's talk about the Battle Royale mode, which they're calling Blackout. Treyarch has not committed to the number of players. In an interview, someone said, well, your max player count before has been 32. Can you confirm it's higher than that? And he was like, yeah, way higher than that. So at this point, everyone's assuming at least 50. Now,
my guess would be at least 64.
That makes more sense.
Seems
mathematically.
like doubling seems like a pretty easy move.
Exactly. So here's my question to you, Matt. I got in a discussion about this with someone on SIFTD the other day. Is does it matter how many players there are?
I mean, functionally, when you're playing, probably not.
As long as it's tuned
as long as there's a ton of people. As long as there's more people than you can count easily.
Yeah.
I think that's the key.
And I think as long as it's tuned to the number of players. So if you know you have 64 players, you've built the maps knowing that you're going to have a maximum of 64.
Right. I think this is going to blow up in their face. I don't think the Battle Royale crowd is interested in this. I think Battle Royale has evolved with a younger audience, with a different audience, with an audience that is totally fine with jank as long as it gets them their stuff cheaper. And I mean, the Fortnite thing is because Fortnite's free. Like because it's free, and they want $60 for this thing, as far as we know right now. I mean, that's the price on the Blizzard app thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's going to be some kind of.
They're going to sell it for $60.
Right. Like,
you know they are.
But like the first one's free trial thing for Blackout or something might not hurt. But I think the main thing is like, I wonder if they're shooting themselves in the foot here because the people who play Call of Duty religiously are older gamers who maybe don't even necessarily know about the Battle Royale craze, and they might very well buy this and be like, oh, what's this thing? Hey, this is great. But I think Activision's after the audience that made the Battle Royale games a critical mass in the gaming space, and I just don't think they're. I don't think they're. I don't think you're going to have the meme where the dude's walking down the street and looking at the hot girl and the other girl's like, hey, I don't think that's going to happen with Black Ops. I don't think it's going to distract anyone who's into Fortnite or PUBG in any great numbers to come over and be like, you know what I'd really like to do is instead of playing this free game or this game that I've owned for 3 years and stream all the time, I'm going to play this $60 game from this series that has never done this before and like I probably make fun of all the time.
Okay, I will present a counter argument to that. Day one, 10 million people on this game. You don't need all those other people. You're going to have more people than you could even comprehend in that mode.
How many copies does a Call of Duty need to sell to be considered like average? Like an Infinite Warfare is considered a failure.
Yeah.
How many copies?
Like
did that?
9 or 10.
Okay.
I mean, a really successful Call of Duty sells 25 million, something like that.
Is that Black Ops 3? Or Black Ops 2?
I don't know if it quite hit that. Black Ops 2 sold over that. Black Ops 2 is, I think, if not the most successful, one of the top 2 most successful Call of Duty games ever.
I think it's the most. I think because Modern Warfare 2
there's still like 700,000 people playing Black Ops. It's insane, like how that game is hung on. So first of all, huge install base on day one. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're not going to have to worry about pulling anyone from any other game. You're going to have plenty of people to fill that mode. 2, to your point, older people playing Call of Duty, that's their franchise. This is the Trojan horse into Battle Royale because what their Battle Royale does is it uses all the elements of prior Black Ops games and puts them into one melting pot. So while you're right, there's probably a lot of people who are Call of Duty fans who have maybe never touched a Battle Royale mode or maybe fiddled around with Fortnite because it's free. Mm-hmm. It's going to be like a warm blanket when they play this because all the gadgets,
one hopes this one plays better than Fortnite does.
Right. All the gadgets, all the guns, all the characters, they have vehicles. Think about that. A Call of Duty with vehicles in it.
Well, Treyarch's done it before.
That's right, but they're like a part of the core experience here. So I hear you. Like, I don't see this game pulling, at least not at first.
I mean, that's actually,
I don't see this game pulling a ton of people away from PUBG or away from Fortnite.
The vehicles concern me, actually.
It could be a problem.
Because every time Treyarch has tried to do vehicles before, it has been garbage.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. So I don't think at first that this is going to pull it. I don't think like the day this comes out, like suddenly PUBG loses 10 million people and Fortnite loses 10 million people and they start playing this. I think what does happen is there's a huge built-in audience for this on day one. If it's good, word will eventually spread.
Do you think that
and then maybe it pulls some people from those other games.
Do you think that built-in audience cares about the campaign?
I think 40% of them do.
Have things shifted? Because I remember in the Black Ops 2 era, the stats Activision put out was something like 70% of the people who bought the game never touched the multiplayer.
Right. Yeah.
So have things shifted? I mean, I could believe that they have.
Oh, yeah. I mean, more people play multiplayer than
because the campaigns have become less and less important.
Absolutely. I mean, look, Treyarch and Activision has all that data. It has more data than you could ever look at in your lifetime on this stuff.
You figure that you have the data, you know what you're doing, but then like you say the same thing about lawbreakers.
I don't know. Cliff and Boss Key had access to a whole lot of data when they started waking up.
They had their metrics. I don't know. You got to move forward. You got, like you say, you got to move ahead. You got to change the game periodically. You can't, things alter. New things pop up. Other people innovate, and you have to keep up. You can't just keep making the same thing over and over again, even though Call of Duty pretty much does that. But then you wonder, if it's been working for you. But then maybe it hasn't, because Infinite Warfare. I wonder if Infinite Warfare sold less because it didn't look like what everything that people are used to.
I think that was definitely a part of it. It didn't look like a Call of Duty game.
Which is one of the reasons I like it so much.
Right. That campaign was great. I mean, I don't think anybody can deny that was one of the better first-person shooter campaigns of the last half-decade or so.
I played it twice, which the only other first-person shooter campaign I think I played twice in the last, 7 or 8 years is Titanfall 2.
Yeah, which was also great.
Yes.
So, I don't know. I'm torn on this, Matt. And again, I used to be a huge Call of Duty fan, so much so that people used to rag on me online about it and be like, oh, if it's not COD, Shane doesn't like it, which was always bullcrap. But as someone who has played all these games and does have a pretty good attachment to it, I'm torn on this one. I don't know that I would miss the campaign all that much because I didn't like the campaign in Black Ops 3 all that much. I thought it was okay.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't even matter to me because I wouldn't have played it either way.
I will say this. I am far more interested in playing Battle Royale in Black Ops than I am about playing Fortnite or PUBG. Absolutely. Because when I play Fortnite or I play PUBG, I feel like a fish out of water. Like I'm swimming in somebody else's pool.
Have they shown any of the Battle Royale mode at all?
There's just this little.
Do you think it'll be first person?
Yeah, I do think.
Because I feel like I think Battle Royale needs to be third person.
Absolutely. I don't know why.
Because you lose so much visibility around the character if you're not third person, and hiding from people and seeing your. I mean, I just feel like maybe it doesn't matter if you can't switch.
But you got to remember, Call of Duty has gadgets though that will do that for you. Yeah. There are heart rate sensors that you can attach to your gun and I think again that type of stuff, it's all that legacy content being thrown into a battle royale. It can could pay huge dividends. And me personally, I'm more excited to play Blackout than I am to play Fortnite or PUBG.
It'll be interesting in the sense of so much of the appeal of the Battle Royale game seems to be the customization of the character, what you look like, the crazy shit that happens around that. And you remove all that if you make it all first person. And if you make
everybody else can still see your character.
Sure, but that's not the same thing. And but then again, like you say, maybe they're going for this older audience, this audience that hasn't tried this subgenre yet or mode yet, whatever you want to call it. I know that's a big argument now. Is it a genre or is it a mode?
Right.
Maybe it doesn't matter to them. But I do know that when you can switch back and forth in something like Battlefront, Star Wars, the third person people have an advantage because you can see around the corners easier.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see. I admit, even though I don't want to play it, it is the first time I'm interested in a Call of Duty launch and the outcome of it in a long time.
I mean, you're right. You can say that. At least Treyarch is stirring the pot a little bit.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, these games just come and go. The same people buy them.
I mean, you can't really argue that Call of Duty didn't need some kind of shot in the arm.
Yeah, I mean, it probably needs a shot bigger than this, to be honest with you, at this point. The focus on zombies seems a little misguided to me.
Yeah, I don't know. Is it not big enough? Is it the wrong shot? Is it the wrong arm? Like,
yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, and we'll probably get a little more information at E3, I'm guessing, but I would say probably Activision will just continue to kind of unveil stuff as it goes along. I wouldn't be surprised either if Activision does a separate event for Battle Royale.
Yeah, well, also I think it's going to be interesting as we get closer to E3 and move through E3. I think we're going to see a whole lot of AAA publishers revealing their Battle Royale takes, and it's going to be interesting to see who came up with the take on the Battle Royale thing that attracts the most eyeballs.
Yeah.
Because here's the place, and like people are skeptical about the Gears 5 thing. I could see them rushing Gears 5 into production to get a Battle Royale mode out there, because that game and its systems are so well, like,
it's already third person.
It's already third person. You could do kind of like a more like large-scale Battlefield thing with it.
Gotta strike while the iron's hot.
I think it is ripe for that idea.
Because in 3 years, how big is Battle Royale going to be?
Right.
It's just going to be another mode.
Well, everyone's going to have it.
Yeah.
So like, I think you're probably right in the sense that, I'm sure they all want to capture that PUBG audience and that Fortnite audience one way or the other, but you are still looking at a point where like this is.
You got to keep your customers too.
Well, right. Well, this is the year where
you could bleed customers.
This is the year where we find out which AAA publisher gets the biggest hunk of that bone.
Yeah, absolutely.
And maybe that doesn't impact Fortnite and PUBG all that much, but there's a casual audience that doesn't necessarily even know about that whole thing yet. That you have to assume that people that like to play online multiplayer games, if they've never encountered PUBG or Fortnite before, are going to pick something like this up and be like, oh, this is really cool. I mean, it seems to be a mode that everybody likes one way or the other, or at least likes the idea of.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you can get a really slick, polished experience in there, in contrast with what the big ones are right now, yeah, it could get critical mass going. But it's interesting to see who that is.
Right. Why hasn't anyone licensed Battle Royale, the movie? Why hasn't anyone made the Battle Royale game?
Probably because it's children shooting each other, and we do that enough in real life already.
Good point. Probably wouldn't work in America too well.
No.
Other countries maybe, not here.
No.
It would be outlawed in like a week.
I think we play games to escape.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
unfortunately, that's reality where we live.
Yeah.
It's insane. All right, so there you go. Black Ops 4. I'm sure there's more to come on that, which means we'll talk about it more. Again, I'm kind of in the middle. I don't know where it's going. A little disappointed that Treyarch, generally a Trailblazer, has kind of turned into a Me Too developer with this one. But at the same time, I'm very excited to check out Blackout, more so than any other Battle Royale mode that I've seen so far. So, time for our trailer of the week. We're going to do something in today's episode that I don't think we've ever done before. The trailer of the week is for a game that we discussed earlier. Mm-hmm. Usually we'll be like, no, if we talk about it, we're not going to run the trailer of the week.
Well, this one was pretty weird.
This trailer is awesome, and it's for Dragon's Crown Pro. And
it mystifies me why they spent the money to make it.
I have no idea where the money came from.
I'm glad they did.
I'm glad they did.
But
it's hilarious. It's a great trailer. But
it's so weird that they would spend the money for that. It seems like such a niche game to put.
It seems like they blew like 80% of their marketing budget on just that one trailer. But hey, it's working. We're showing it on GameFace.
I mean, arguably you have the built-in audience that already is aware of Vanillaware and Dragon's Crown, and is like me. Like I was always going to buy this because I like Vanillaware stuff.
Yeah.
And I knew about Dragon's Crown already. Like you had my attention. So if you want to blow a huge amount of money trying to get other people who have never heard of this to pay attention and realize it's a thing that's out there, I guess that makes a little bit of sense.
I mean, would it be better frittered away on YouTube ads that people like don't watch anyway?
Maybe.
They only watch the first 5 seconds.
Maybe there's still sort of that weird feeling that has been around for a long time of like how, you can't, it's 2D. You can't just show 2D games.
Right,
no one cares about 2D games.
Yeah, that could be. But anyway, this is a live action trailer for Dragon's Crown. Get those questions in the chat right now. Let's roll it.
Yeah, it's hard to explain. There's just a spark.
Special lady, sophisticated urban lady.
Who made the first move? Definitely me.
I wouldn't really call it a fight. It was no big deal.
You're still not over that?
It had sentimental value.
How do you have all of this stuff? What about this?
Keep.
You have 3.
That one's special. Don't you remember the Medusa fight? That was awesome. After all the meals I've cooked, hours over the stove,
He's definitely the chef, no doubt.
I know my way around the kitchen.
Oh, I don't know. Life with you is like, I mean, it's always.
An adventure.
There you go. Now you know why we chose that one for our trailer of the week.
Remember I said it was D&D, and they had even have a beholder in there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Let's see if we have any questions here. Remember, go at SIFTD Games if you want to ask any questions. I may need to reload this, unfortunately. Yeah, all my stuff is old. I don't know what's up with the app. Do you have anything, Matt?
Well, if it goes to sleep, it doesn't update the chat. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Here's a good one. The Legacy asks, are you surprised there's no package deal with a Black Ops 1 campaign or the rumored Modern Warfare 2 campaign remaster like Infinite Warfare had with Modern Warfare Remastered?
No. When I heard those rumors, I thought they were all malarkey anyway. It does kind of make sense because with no campaign, you're like, oh, well, let's just revamp an old one and just recycle it, but I don't know. I know Treyarch pretty well. I've spent a lot of time with those guys, and to me, it just doesn't seem like something that they would do.
No. Well, I think a Modern Warfare 2 Remastered is in the cards, but that's going to come with an Infinity Ward game.
Oh, yeah.
Probably
absolutely.
next year.
Yeah.
With the rumored Modern Warfare 4 on the 10th anniversary of Modern Warfare 2.
Yeah, that makes too much sense. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that, but remastered Black Ops stuff does not seem to be a thing.
Yeah.
Also, because most of that's backwards compatible anyway, I guess.
Yeah, I guess you're right. It's kind of redundant when you think about it that way.
Also, like, you get 700,000 people still playing Black Ops 2. They don't need a remaster. They're still playing it.
Here I can see one from Don Lionheart. What do you guys think about Sony announcing their games early? Ruins the surprise. What do you mean? Sony announcing that they're focusing on those 4 games for E3? Is that what you're talking about? Or did something break while we're doing the show?
I mean, they said, like, there's the 4 games, I guess. But there's always going to be weird little things they show.
Yeah.
I don't know. I won't judge it until we see it.
I mean, it is a little weird that Sony is kind of going the Nintendo route, where it's like, hey,
just chill out. Like, it feels like they're trying to lower expectations by default.
Well, I mean, it's also doing what Nintendo's done, and it says at E3 we're going to focus on just a few products and blow them out hardcore instead of just throwing little bits and pieces of games out there. I agree with Matt, though. I think it could be a little bit of a ruse. Like, I wouldn't just assume that those are the only 4 games you're going to hear about. And maybe Sony just turned it over to the third parties this year and said, hey, you guys can debut all this stuff. We want to focus on these 4 games that we really need to sell tons of copies of. And look, those games look great. I'm excited to get more information on all 4 of those games. So Sony's decision, I don't think it's going to affect E3 overall. I think what you're going to get is you're going to get some of these announcements that maybe normally were shown at Sony's press conference, handled by the actual publishers who are publishing them, the third-party publishers. So I think you'll see Capcom maybe show some stuff on its own, Square Enix. All those guys, I think, will probably just handle that stuff on their own. And does it really matter whether it's on Sony's stage or whether the publishers are the ones who unveil it? Not really. As long as you get it, and if you're on SIFTD, you're going to get it. So I think all's well that ends well, and ultimately getting deep dives on those 4 games I think is great. So, yeah, I have no problem with that strategy at all. I mean, you said ruins a surprise. That's why it threw me off. I'm like, wait, did they announce something while we were doing the show? Because all 4 of those games were known quantities already, so it wasn't really ruining any sort of surprise.
I don't know.
I'm excited to see more.
NeoGAF used to have spoiler threads about press conferences. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, people want to consume their E3 in the way they consume it.
Yeah, unfortunately, in today's media age, good luck with that.
Gurzilla asks, do you think the inevitable Battle Royale mode in Battlefield 5 will be free while the main game will cost money like in Fortnite? No. EA is going to charge you for everything.
I'm sorry, I missed the question. I was reading another
Will
one.
Battlefield 5's inevitable Battle Royale mode be free?
No.
No.
And neither will Call of Duty's, obviously. So I think what they're banking on is they think that their product is going to ultimately be a superior product.
Right. Well, and they also bank, I
One.
think, on the idea that the Battle Royale thing will be a big bonus to their already existing desirable package.
Exactly. Because their games are much more than just a Battle Royale mode. I mean, I know Fortnite has, like, really what Fortnite is. It didn't start as Battle Royale. But that didn't really catch fire. It caught fire when Battle Royale came out, 1, and 2, and it was free.
See,
Well, I mean, they already said Battlefield 5 is going to have a campaign.
Yeah. If anything is
Which is unveiled in 2 days, by the way.
If anything is free in that regard, I could see Ubisoft like breaking out like a Battle Royale Ghost Recon mode
I could see
from
that.
like the Wildlands tech and just saying like it's free, here's a bunch of like cosmetic loot, the Fortnite thing. I could see like Ubisoft doing that, and I think that would be wildfire.
I mean, it's already kind of done it. I mean, Rainbow Six Siege
Yeah.
is kind of that already. There's
Take
no
that model
campaign
and just
there.
apply it to a Battle Royale adaptation of Wildlands. I think you've got gold.
That's
right
a great
there.
idea, and I think Ubisoft already has it figured out.
Yeah,
I mean,
Ubisoft already knows how to sell you microtransactions.
Siege
Like, it's already
started
there.
out really rough, and now it's gigantic. I mean, it has, I think last month it had 40 million players.
Yeah. And 3 guesses what the new Dark Zone will be in Division 2.
Absolutely. Yeah, Battle Royale mode.
But now you got to
Battle
get
Royale
get
zone.
your stuff out.
Yeah.
You
I
don't
think
get
you're
to
right.
keep your hats unless you win the chicken dinner.
No, I think you're right, though. If there's one publisher that would do something like that, it's absolutely Ubisoft. Good one, Kyle. J. Reed Vic 7, what's up, brother? Hope you're having a good night. Years from now, when people look back at the legacy of the 360 PS3, will part of it be that budgets were low enough that all we could still get more niche things that rounded out platforms like Tony Hawk, SSX, Skate, Def Jam, etc., even though they weren't necessarily as good as the predecessors?
I mean, it might be kind of seen as the last gasp of the mid-tier game, the B-lister.
It absolutely was.
But I think like indie games have kind of filled that niche to some degree.
We just talked about State of Decay 2.
Yeah.
There's a perfect example of a mid-tier game.
State of Decay 2 is exactly like what you would have paid like $30 for on a PlayStation 2.
Yep,
Like,
absolutely.
yeah.
And we've talked about it on the show before. We don't see that stuff anymore.
Right.
And we actually kind of lamented that we didn't see it anymore a little
I
bit.
like that kind of. I always like the sort of mid-card game that like
Yeah.
you didn't know what it was, you picked it up, you bought Shadow of Rome on a whim just because it said Capcom,
Yeah.
and like you got it home and it's actually pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Like
I think probably ONRUSH should be a discounted game if it really wants it to do well. I don't think they will, but I think it probably
I mean, it's
should
not
be.
like most of those games back in the day were actually cheaper than
Some
at
of
retail.
them were maybe like $10.
But most of them just dropped in price
really
fast.
quick. Yeah.
So yeah, I like that. I feel like the indie game scene kind of fills that hole for me fairly adequately. Sometimes a game comes along like State of Decay 2 that reminds me of like, oh, I wish there was like, when publishers didn't feel like everything had. I mean, I know this was already Jim Sterling's video this week, but it's like where publishers didn't feel like everything had to be a home run.
Right.
Where like they just sort
Like,
of
hey, we have this pet project.
Right.
Like Zack and Wiki. Will we ever see a
Right.
game like that ever again from a big publisher? Like Square Enix obviously has its collective, its indie imprint that it does stuff like that on, but
Well, boy, do I
most
have-
publishers do not have that.
Boy, do I have a surprise for you about what Crackdown 3 has become in the interim. Yeah.
Here's one from Damp Towel Man. I've never seen you in the chat before, so if you're new to GameFace, welcome and thanks for watching. Do you think Activision can justify paid map packs for Black Ops 4? I saw today on SIFTD that there will be no paid map packs for Black Ops 4.
That would make sense. I don't think you can justify that.
That they're going to be free and they're going to come out like one per month. It did not say whether Sony will be getting them first or not. I'm assuming it will still. But yeah, I mean, the news today was that there are no paid map packs. But yeah, to answer your question, if there were paid map packs, no. You absolutely cannot rationalize that.
No, I don't think that's, yeah.
I don't know if you saw Pactor's prediction. Pactor thinks that, and I think it may have been proven wrong already, he thinks that there is absolutely going to be a campaign for Black Ops 4, and that is going to be the DLC for Black Ops 4. That eventually they'll release a campaign that people will download.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say to that.
I know. He said he refused to believe that they didn't work on one, which kind of falls.
I'm sure they worked on
right.
one, but I think they threw it out.
But I think what he's saying is like, well, once the game comes out, they'll have time to finish the campaign, and eventually they'll drop it and let people download it for free. I don't know.
That seems very non-Activision.
That seems very optimistic, I think. Congrim1. Also, I don't think I've seen you in the chat before. Welcome. Have either of you voted or checked out the monthly screenshot contest on SIFTD community forums? You should check it out 25th of each month to vote.
It's coming up.
I have checked it out before. I wish I had time to participate. In fact, I did a travel log for God of War where I just took all the screenshots that I had snapped while I was playing the game. And I didn't take them all, but I took the best ones, and I just put them up in a gallery on the site. And somebody mentioned in there, like, you should pick the best one and enter it in the screen. It has been going on since SIFTD launched, by the way.
I should have taken some screenshots of all my glitches in State of Decay 2.
Well, yeah.
We have a little slideshow of all the horrible things I ran into.
There's a theme typically every month for the screenshot contest. Go on the forums. You can't miss the thread. It's right there. Typically, there's a theme that you go for whenever you submit a shot. But I have not participated in one in quite a while. But when they first launched, I did. I'm just so damn busy. I wish I had time to do fun stuff like that, but unfortunately, I do not.
Playland MX asks, is that a face hugger on the shelf at the right hand of Matt? Yes, it is.
On top of a turntable.
On top of a turntable is a stuffed face hugger. It's got wires in the legs. You can pose it.
It'll actually attach to your face,
Yep.
right?
You can attach to your face if you want.
Yep.
I used to have that on my monitor at G4, like hanging over the top of the monitor, and then they switched us to flat screen monitors, and I had to take it home because I couldn't. Because it sat on the top of the CRT monitor,
Right.
like, but it was a flat screen. It couldn't.
Right.
Couldn't do that.
So Don Lionheart, to follow up on his prior question, I say ruins a surprise because you know what not to expect from first-party games. I get that. Let's see. We'll take maybe one or two more here if we got one. Mr. Mute Speaker. Lots of new people in chat that I don't recognize tonight. That's awesome. Welcome, guys. Do you think it would have been a better idea to completely revamp COD's multiplayer instead of replacing his campaign mode, since multiplayer is what gave the game legs and most never had issues with the story mode? No. I don't think it was a good idea. I don't think that would have been a good idea, in all honesty. I think you need a certain sense of familiarity with Call of Duty's multiplayer. I think that's why some people have rebelled from it over the last 3 or 4 years, because it started getting out there with jetpacks and wall running. Now everybody's like, boots on the ground, you need to boots on the ground. I don't like boots on the ground. I feel like it's a regression, but people seem to be screaming for it. And obviously Battlefield 1.
Boots on the ground refers to like no wall running or
Right.
jetpacks and stuff?
No jetpacks and stuff like that. Yeah. And people have been clamoring for it, and now that's what they're getting, and they got it with Battlefield 1, and people loved it. I think you need a little bit of familiarity with the tools that you jump into to play multiplayer. Otherwise, it's just any first-person shooter. I think Call of Duty has a certain identity, and I think it also plays into what I was talking about earlier with its Battle Royale mode. I think what's going to be a boon for that Battle Royale mode is that people are going to be able to jump into it and be good right away, because they've played with all those guns. They've used an AK-47 for 10 years in Call of Duty. They know how it fires. They know what the recoil's like. They know what the shot pattern is like. They know what scopes they want to use. They know what other attachments they want to put on their weapons. They know what weapon they like to use, whether they want to use an assault rifle or an SMG or a light machine gun or whatever. I think that familiarity is an advantage in multiplayer, and I think we're going to see that play out in the Battle Royale mode when it comes out. So I wasn't the guy that hated on Call of Duty when it added jetpacks. In fact, I loved it. I thought it was great. And I liked the wall running in Black Ops 3 as well. But that's not what everyone else is calling for right now. They want it to kind of go back to the roots of the franchise. And so no, I don't think if people are stopped or have stopped playing the campaign, you don't change the multiplayer because people have stopped playing the campaign. You change the campaign or you get rid of it, which is what they ultimately did. So
Also, you could argue they did drastically change the campaign with Infinite Warfare, and it did not go over well.
yeah, that's a good point. Yep, but I think that had more to do with setting and aesthetics
Somewhat.
more than gameplay.
Man, I like that game.
So do I. That's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes.
Yeah.
Thanks for the great questions, guys. Another great sampling of queries. So that's it for GameFace 129. A couple notes before we go. We'll be starting our E3 2018 previews next week. If you guys are new to SIFTD or new to GameFace, we go publisher by publisher. And next week won't be all E3 previews. We'll do a couple publishers next week, a couple publishers the week after that.
We got some stuff coming out this week.
Yeah, and the releases are starting to heat up as well. So
Is it gonna be Detroit this week?
Yep. Yeah, I think Detroit comes out tomorrow.
Now it's the 25th.
So Friday.
It's Friday.
Friday. So we'll get you guys ready for E3. You guys will be locked and loaded. You'll have all the information you need to get ready for the show. Probably next week I'll start talking more in depth about our E3 plans as far as what we're going to be doing and what you can expect from that. But just starting to get jacked up here, man. E3 is right around the corner, just 3 weeks away.
Yeah.
Just about 4 weeks away, closer to 4 weeks.
Yeah, but it's getting there.
Yep, but we promise you, like we always do, we will have you guys ready to go for E3 2018, and we can't wait for you guys to take the ride with us. So one final note before we go, if you jumped into the stream late, it is late in the month, so if you have not re-upped your Twitch Prime subscription for us, we would really appreciate it.
So a bunch of people doing that in the
you
chat
did?
as we were going on.
That is one big disadvantage to doing the show here. No offense. I appreciate very much that we can do it here. But not having that PC there that's feeding into the TriCaster, that was a huge, huge help.
Get you a little music stand to put your iPad on.
That's true. That might work. But yeah, I wish I could follow the chat a little more closely than I do. But thank you to all you guys who subscribed. If you jumped in late and you haven't done it yet this month, by now it's probably turned over and you could probably do it again. It is a huge, huge help for us. We really, really appreciate it. So, and those of you on YouTube, you better be giving us that $2.50. Seriously. It's like, why not? You know, it's like if you're enjoying GameFace and Pactor Factor and you can't afford to contribute to our cause, just give us that free $2.50 every month. It's awesome. We would really appreciate it. So, hope you guys have a great week. GameFace is up and out.